private server?
I ain't got money for that. It's a good idea and all, but I ain't got money for it. I ain't financially stable enough to do all that. And
Well, we'll have to tell
is
them,
my
dude.
shit live on your end? Can you see my shit? Because it's saying I'm live in the top right, but I don't see it on my
See,
my channel.
yeah, we'll have to talk about that then. Talk about the financial situation.
Do you hear me?
Yeah, it's here. You
It's
should change
there?
the title though. Yeah, you should change the title though.
I ain't gonna change it. If
Yeah, you
I
should
was
change
able
the
to
title.
see it, I would. Okay, there we go. Edit. Topics.
Guess we'll give a few minutes to let people come in and then we'll start. What's on your mind, man? Everything good? How you doing?
No, I'm not really feeling the best. Just that, and I'm watching this game just die. It's not good at all right now. Like, I'm not referring to the game, but just like how it's being like people are complaining about things and things aren't getting fixed at all, and I already see where this is heading. You know what I mean?
Have you checked the forums?
Yeah,
Like a lot of
people are
people are
not.
split on like a lot of ideas.
Yeah, that's because the game made it that way. We still have that. We still have that group of people that still wanna. Oh god, I just lagged for a minute. They still want to be the old role type thing, and then we have people that are like, no, the new role is fine, and then like, because the devs gave us the option to have conflicting views like that, because back in the day, if we started this game out how it is right now, you know damn well that, oh shit, hold on, my shit is just watching my shit. Make sure it's running right. You know damn well that if it started up right now, this game just came out today, that everything that we know, right?
Yep, go on, listen.
Everything that we know wouldn't be there, so we wouldn't be talking about conflicting interests yet. We would start out with how it is now, so everything we know front face. We wouldn't be able to complain about anything or any fixes until we understood the game more. This is not even a finished game, and they're selling it as a finished game. That's what I'm trying to say.
A lot of developers have done that for many different games already. It's been the status quo, but it's the whole thing with me is I'm trying to roll with the punches, although I don't play as often or at all right now.
I'm the same. I've been playing Call of Duty and I've been losing subs to that. What's up, Copper 4? How you doing today, man? Hope you're having a great Sunday. Sunday!
No more monster truck rallies, please. Oh my god. Ever been to a monster truck rally?
No.
Me neither. Once this shit
Uh,
clears up, I might see if there's any in town, and I might go to one. Might be cool.
defending my base against a Treb, lol. Oh, well, yeah.
Well, good luck, man.
That
Don't know how
sucks.
that goes. What's up, Killer Rays? So, the circumstances as a being. Honestly, I don't mind the role anymore.
I don't
I
either.
like the role.
It's
Yeah, I
just
mean,
that
like,
people refuse to play. The player count, if you're watching it, just keeps going down. Like, it's going down. It's dying. And it's upsetting. I mean,
it's...
I'd quit too with half the shit that I've dealt with. Not only is there lag, there's one-shot weapons, there's one-shot things in this game that shouldn't be there. There's just things to make the game unfun for everyone else. There's so many things that make the game unfun for everyone else. And that's the problem. What's your
Yeah,
view
like
on the state of Thralls and PvP and coming update to nerf them? Frosty Snowman wants to know.
I don't think they're really gonna do anything.
They're
Didn't
not.
they?
The
Cause
multiplayer's not changing, just the damage overall, and they still be able to one-shot you depending on what things you have on the weapon and gave the Thrall. Uh, to be honest, I think this is a cop-out. That whole update coming out is a cop-out, dude. Like, I'm just
what do you
saying
mean?
it like it is. Like, it's a cop-out. They're like, okay, well, they gotta tend to both sides, right? They gotta tend to PvE and PvP. So they're gonna nerf the Thralls to where it looks like it can't kill you in PvP, but they really still will, but they're just doing this to make you happy for now. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're doing this so that way you're off their back about the Thralls right now. Even though the Thralls, in my opinion, when there was I don't know, dude, the Thralls themselves are just stupid. They'll Have you ever been hit without being hit by a Thrall and just die? Like, they just whip their sword out and then unequip before it hits you and kills you?
Yeah,
Like,
the animation canceled the attacks.
it's dude. That's a sport for them, dude.
Pretty much, yeah.
It's not
Cause
even right.
here's the
Like,
thing. I was reading the forums, was on the forums looking at comments talking about thralls, about horses, about pets. There was one comment that stood out that where like the exiles should be the heroes when realistically, this is how I think about this. Exiles technically are not heroes in this, even though it is a game and we should be the heroes. Exiles technically aren't heroes; they're just exiles. That's basically what we are.
right.
Whereas anything that we add to our kit is just an augment of what we are.
Right.
It'd be nice to be the heroes in this game, but I'm not sure if we actually
Well, the
can
game
be.
is centered around us being the main character of our own story. That's supposed to be how it is. When they say
Yeah,
heroes,
that's
they
true.
mean
That's true.
they mean it's not Conan Exiles and friends. It's Conan Exiles.
Yeah,
Like,
pretty
we're
much,
the
yeah.
ones with the green bracelet. Like, you can throw your Thrall out the green wall, he's not gonna die, but you go out there, you're dead.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Which doesn't make much sense, but we'll let it slide. The
But really,
Thrall update is
go ahead,
just,
go ahead.
it's not gonna work, dude. It's not
But
gonna
the
work.
thing is with that though, the arguments with the whole thrall update, and even the horses, like to be completely fair, I don't want horses to be dismembered because they are an interesting mechanic. A lot of people had a really good fundamental points on the forums, but like if you look at horses and how they stand and how people actually build horses or how people build thralls, they need to be dialed back. They don't need to be removed, or they don't need to be like just completely nerfed into the ground, because I mean, even if you make those drastic changes, it's still not going to deter people from using them. So what I would suggest is make some reductions to their modifier.
Dude, not even the modifier. Dude, see, you're on that spectrum. I'm on the spectrum of this game. It's solely bent about melee combat and on the ground
I'm not
since the
saying it
game
isn't. I'm
started.
not saying it
If
isn't.
we
Like,
have
dude,
horses, I want a
here's what I'm
goddamn
coming from.
naval fleet. Where's my naval fleet at? I'll have a floating base out there by the jungle, bro.
But that's the thing too. You can't really defend a base that's on the water. I used to live in a base a long time ago that was on the water, a really big one. And
You
like
can. You can defend it if it's floating.
if it's floating, yeah, but at the same time,
I want a raft base.
at the same time,
I'm tired of
the
this.
raft base. Oh shit, here we go.
If we're
Another
gonna go
buttering
arc, let's
around
go
the
all the
raft
way,
base.
right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Because
But
at
yeah,
this point, you're just trying to get whatever best Thrall fits you, and whoever can exploit the most wins the fight.
I feel like that's a little, you're not wrong. It's not wrong. It's a little, it's a fucked up way of looking at it. But
It's the
truth,
facts,
honestly.
man. I'm just stating facts. I'm not even being aggressive about it. It's just true. That's how Arc is. Whoever exploits the most and has the best dinos wins, period. Doesn't matter your individual skill. They've blurred the lines in this game from a pro
That's
player
pretty much what happened, yeah.
to a new player now. You can come in from Dark Souls and be a top tier player in this now. That never used to be the case. Never ever used to be the case.
Well, the thing is, they've allowed like people who do more of the farming to really excel more.
But that's not
Uh,
how PvP should be. That's what I'm trying to say is like PvP should be based around your it should be PvP is player versus player. I don't want to fight a thrall, a horse, and then a whole base of thralls. I want to fight the player.
Naturally, I feel the game has been more RTS focused now.
That's
That's
just
really
yeah.
what has been happening.
They fucking and that's
That's
because the
really
other
what it's
RTS
been.
failed.
Oh, hold on,
I'm,
let's
I'm just saying, man. Like,
Let's
if you
settle
look
down.
at it.
Let's keep it civil.
Alright, alright, alright. I did get off a little aggressive there. I'm just tired. I just woke up and I have to do my
Yeah,
walk and all that
got
good
you, man.
stuff, so I'm
I
just.
got you, man. I got you.
I'm stressed.
But yeah, looking at it like that, like you said, it is definitely a melee-based game, and originally that's what it is. And which server you are on the moment? We're not on any servers right now, homie. Sorry, we're not. Not playing on any servers right now. I'm working 2 jobs, and he's doing his own thing. So yeah, it's Conan at its core was originally a melee-based game. A lot of people from the forums and a lot of people from the YouTube community have said have felt you either have to leave the game the way that it is, or um, not roll with the punches, but continue to go through the
Adapt.
evolutionary path, or adapt where the
Adapt
game
or
is.
die. Yeah, that's kind of been
Yeah,
the whole. I'm a badass, cool kid. You either adapt in Conan or you die. I'm so good. No, you're not actually good. And I've seen a lot of them players, and I've played against them a lot of times. They're not good. They are
well, at their
not.
core, at its core, it's not even about being like the fighting aspect is marginal now.
The
You
fighting,
don't
there is
have to
no
be the
fighting. You
best.
just run somebody over.
Yeah, it's marginal now. You don't even have to really be good at fighting anymore, which has been kind of what's been going at it. It's only really a
I
community
miss
of
those
people
days,
who like
man.
doing
I
that.
really do. I miss those days when I could just walk out, gear on, dude, and just go to town in the server, dude. Just fight like my life depended on it against like 30 plus people at once. I miss those days. It never felt the same when I came back, and I still don't. Ever since horses came out, I mean, they have their own place. They should have their own place, but not everywhere. You know what I mean? Like, it was balanced when you couldn't have a thrall with a horse.
There's
Kinda.
the only counterplay that can be implemented is really another horse.
That's
I mean,
stupid.
this is the same song and dance. Same song and dance. I mean, we talked about this. Like, there's just no counterplay, realistically. And I kind of get tired of talking about the same things because there's no real implementation for change, and there's nothing really being talked about it. People are yelling on the forums like, "Oh, fuck you, loser! You should get good. You should get good at horses. Horses
Get
take
good on the
skill."
horse, bro. We're heavy armor. It's like, well, you know, I actually play the game. I actually play the game and want to get good at the combat, not ride around on the horse and hold R2 and release when I'm about to hit somebody. That's stupid.
Because really, from what I've seen and read on like the forums, and I keep bringing this up because that's really a larger part of the community. Everybody's almost on the forums. Everyone talks on there. A lot of the stuff I'm gonna say comes from the forums. A lot of them like that type of content, which is fair, man. They want different content in the game, but at the same time, it's like if there's nothing to potentially counter that, and someone is open field against you, or it's not
You're
even
dead.
just one person. If not even just one person, if you're fighting in a large clan versus multiple people, most of them are going to be on horses. They're not going to fight you on the ground. And if anything is on the ground, it's most likely going to be a thrall or a pet with them. So it's
With a
like,
one-shot
there's...
capability.
Because people on the forum, like a lot of people think, oh, how can you get one shot by a horse, or how are you not using horses yourself? Not a lot of people like to use those or implement those tactics. Now, I'm not saying they should remove horses from the game, but the fact that there is absolutely no counterplay available, like I'm not just saying like a spearman, somebody with a spear.
Spearmen used to fucking kill horses back in the day. They used to
Pretty
actually
much,
have a
yeah,
mousetrap strategy and formation, but the problem is that they aren't modifying. There should be multipliers per weapon on certain things, and I think that would
There
fix a
should
lot
be
of
something
things.
that would
Like
affect this horse's stamina more.
yes,
Because
yes,
I mean, obviously
not just
we
raw damage hitting the stamina, but like if you get hit with a spear on a
or
horse,
the
it
rider,
takes
or
more.
affect
Or,
the rider.
yes, yes, you hit. If your rider gets hit
What's up, Mercy?
at all, he should be knocked down off the horse. Period. If the
Mercy
horse
says
is
he has
hit
a
with
question.
the spear, I know, I'm waiting for it to pop in.
Yeah.
If the horse gets hit with the spear, it should have a lot more damage than being hit with an axe.
There should, yes. Even then, dude. Even then, if you hit the rider takes no
Why
stamina
a spear
damage.
on a horse give bleeding? Because whenever you're fighting, that's another problem. all weapons in this game have a tick damager, or a damage ticker, which means the more you strike at somebody and land a hit, the more damage you're gonna do the next hit. So the
Yeah, pretty
spear
much.
is gonna hit you the
Whoa,
most
no,
on
no,
the
no, no,
fourth
no,
hit.
no, no. That's not right. That's not right. Every other hit does more damage initially.
That's what I'm.
Every other hit's
That's what
gonna.
I'm saying.
Okay, yeah, okay, okay.
So the first hit of the
Go ahead.
spear isn't gonna do anything compared to the fourth hit. The fourth hit will always be the strongest on the spear. And whenever you hop on the horse, every strike that you do has the same damage and effects as the last hit on your weapon, which
Have
is
they
dumb.
ever talked about why it does that? Have the devs
No,
ever talked about?
no, they don't care. Honestly, I don't think that that's their priority right now.
Let's not get too nihilistic about it. Let's try
I'm
and
not. I'm
bring
just
some
saying that.
ideas into it.
No, I am. I'm just saying that there's no. Like, that's not on their priorities. They're focused more on thralls and PvE right now. That they haven't really gotten anybody complaining about the bleeding on horses. They just complain
Really?
about the horses in general. Yeah.
Well, I guess because it's too broad. Well, I get that's the only thing I can think of is saying that they're too broad. And honestly, the fact that we just talk about horses, or say why we feel like there's an issue with horses, that they kind of miss the bigger picture rather than. Because if we just say, hey, you need nerf horses, they're just going to take their damage down instead of
Yep.
actually looking at them. Whereas, like, horses' maneuverability is very easy, or their damage is high, which is obvious. That's why we're here talking about it. You cannot dismount riders. You can't break saddles. So there's very little counterplay. And people say nerf horses, and they're right. There should be some adjustments done to horses, and there are people that say don't nerf horses. Now, the people that say don't nerf horses, they genuinely like the horse mechanic, and I understand. Where I'm saying is there needs to be some adjustments made to horses. There needs to be some more levels of counterplay, not just riding horses. Because what if you decided, hey, I don't want to do cavalry because cavalry legitimately has some flaws. The rider can get dismounted, they can get fucked. So whereas like if I can do something or if something's been implemented into the game where I can counter them besides using building mechanics instead of using like palisades or bombs, because what if you're in a situation where you can't use those things? What if I hit the rider 3 times, or 4 times collectively, or even more times than that? Let's say you hit the rider 5 times. Their stamina bar should regenerate significantly slower than the horse's stamina bar if they've been hit. Or like if the horse has been taking stamina damage and weapon damage, that they should be able to be dismounted faster. I mean, there should just be something implemented into the game, or even with the saddles. We've tested everything on horses. The only thing that can really knock a horse rider off in one hit is a katana with the penetration oil. That's the only thing. That's the only thing, and that's a catch-22 because you're not guaranteed to have it, and you have to wind it up to 4 strikes. It's almost impossible in a realistic situation. It's just not something that's going to happen. So it's not so much that anybody wants to nerf horses. Granted, a lot of people do want to nerf horses. But it's more about making the game more balanced. That's it. That's it. I'm not saying I want horses to be nerfed into the fucking ground, because, I mean, they did that to spears, and spears are still hella good. There's nothing else that they can take away from that. They've done everything they could. So that's my whole stance on that. Like, even with that, even with thralls, dude, you can make alterations and changes. I know they can be buggy at times, and they have so much work put into them. Because I remember watching a Firespark81 video when he was talking about coding for thralls. Thralls have a lot of text dumped into them. There's a lot of stuff that thralls are really complex. Really complex. They have like 8 different complexity layers. But at the same time, if they have that much complexity, can't you make more adjustments to them? Isn't it possible? Like, I mean, come on. That's my whole stance on this, dude. Balance the game in a way where everyone can adapt equally. If there's something implemented into the game, there should be more to counter one thing than the other. I mean, that's just how balance is, right? Make the game fun. Okay, yeah, that's the whole stance on that. So really, a lot of this podcast is going to talk about balancing, make some changes to weapons, but we kind of got off talking about other stuff. I guess those things are important for people to talk about. So let's talk about weapon balancing. So Reaper, I wanted to talk to you about maces again. What do you feel like, or let's start off with the damage types that are already applied in game. Let's talk about the weapon damage and the penetration that's already in game. How do you feel about the weapon damage and how everything is set up in the game? And this will lead into talking about armor stats and mitigation and stuff like that too.
Are you trying to set me up?
I'm asking you, dude. What the fuck you think I brought you here for? How do you feel about the damage types that are already applied in the game? That's what I'm asking you.
Hold on, dude.
Okay.
Okay. So,
You want me to restate the question?
yes.
Okay, how do you feel about the damage types applied in this game? At its most basic form, it's only weapon damage, and it's penetration on weapons.
There should be more to it.
Agreed.
To make it more varied. Make more builds.
That's a major thing that we've been talking about for a while too. Like everyone in chat, we've been talking about different things that can be applied into the game. Like for example, like for the weapon damage and for the actual armor values, there should be differing qualities. And here's some things that we talked about. So let's talk about armor first. So for armor, I feel like armor should be moved into a category where like it is blunt, strike damage, and piercing damage. So like every other weapon type, like let's say for example axes, they would have a specific amount of blunt damage, and they would have a specific amount of strike damage since they're axes. So that way, depending on the quality or type of armor, it would change the amount of damage mitigation, and it would change the weapon's damage type. So like something like Yogg's Touch, let's say if it didn't have penetration on it in the first place, or if it did, it would be like a small value. Or like it would have really high strike damage and really high blunted damage. So that means it would have a heavier attack against heavy armor, it would have a heavy strike against heavy armor opponents, but it wouldn't be extremely effective. Its strike damage wouldn't be completely effective against heavy armor or medium armor opponents, because of the value of armor against like the value of armor against that type of damage or that type of mitigation. Whereas like something like a spear would have high piercing and a specific amount of strike damage against like medium and light and plate armor, something like that. So like with swords would have a high pierce and a pretty average strike value. So that way you'd be able to do damage against medium and light armor targets pretty well, whereas with heavy, swords wouldn't be completely effective unless it was mainly attacks that offered pierce, stuff like that. What do you think, Reaper?
I mean, that sums it up pretty well.
You wanna add anything else?
I don't think there's really much else to add. I mean, just add different types of attack damage and different armor values for different attack damage values. It makes the game more fun because it varies on it makes you have to actually wear different things to counter other people's stuff.
Exactly. Like if somebody came with an axe, it would be more of a benefit to wear heavy armor, because I mean if you were medium, if you were to wear a light armor against a lot of axe builds, you'd pretty much get chopped up. Whereas if you'd wear heavy compared to axe builds or warhammers, because warhammers would probably be straight blunted damage, you'd have to wear something close to heavy armor or at heavy armor's range. And also, I wanted to talk about the staggering effects and the hyper armor on armor pieces. I feel like if you wear heavy armor, you should be staggered less. Because in terms of hyper armor, there's no differentiation between like medium and light. But when you get to heavy armor, you're so slow on your rolls, you have almost no hyper armor frames compared to light armor, which honestly, light armor I think is the best in terms of hyper armor.
Yeah, with agility.
Yeah, with agility it is. Because even though heavy armor does benefit from more agility, there's just nothing there. The stagger frames, it's like nothing that will stop anybody. Like if you try to roll away from somebody in heavy armor, you're toast. It's just how it's gonna be. Whereas like with medium or light, you can still evade and still like have very unpredictable rolls. I feel like if heavy armor staggered less, especially if they were swinging, they wouldn't. It'd be a lot harder to counter heavy armor builds. They'd be more effective. I'm not sure how that would work out though. That's just something that's up in the air. Also, critical damage. I think. How'd you feel about the? How would you feel if there was a, if the critical damage chance stayed the same, but the critical damage itself got reduced?
That'd have been fine. That's what we tried to tell them when I was telling them the nerf is just make the damage not one shot. Make it like the Doom Hammer where it's almost half your health because that's a crit hit, or at least a quarter. And make it it can't just be ticked like the katana. It just have to happen at random times.
Yeah. Because, I mean, let's say like the
Ray
shark
says,
bite
why
daggers.
is a sword glitch able to one-shot now? I have absolutely no idea.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about, Raze?
Fucking...
There's a sword glitch? Are you talking about the horse? There's new glitches every day, man. I can't keep up.
Shield swap with broadsword can one-shot lunge. That's awful.
You're kidding. Oh my lord.
That's awful. That's awful. That is actually awful.
I
wonder
if I
figured that out.
Wasn't me. I'm a good boy. Oh shit.
Yeah, good boy, sit down.
Good boy.
And get me tea.
I guess since he brought that up, why are there so many glitches like that? Why are there so many?
I don't know how they even managed to find these glitches.
I don't know either.
I mean, I found some broken stuff, and then there's somebody that comes around that isn't. Like, mine's legitimate. Mine's just broken stuff. Theirs is like, nah, we're just gonna glitch. Nah. Broken is... Nah, that ain't broken. This is broken. Fucking people, dude. Still waiting on the muskets.
Oh boy, here we go. Let's not even talk about that. If they had muskets, man, I feel like that would really be a hard counter.
One shot to the horses.
It really should. It should be. Okay, let's get back on topic. So balancing the damage and armor. So like, let's say they did make those changes. What do you think would be the most optimal setup for if they made those changes? Let's say they made heavy armor have high blunt resistance, pretty decent pierce resistance, but can be pierced by weapons with high piercing damage. They made it so you would have to use a specific weapon type to fight a certain armor set or type of build. What would you think would be the most optimal setup?
Like, what do you mean?
Like
stat-wise?
Stat-wise, in terms of, no, not stat-wise, because I mean, we can talk about stats later,
What's up, Boom Boom?
I mean, yo, what up, homie? I'm talking more like the, I guess for like, in terms of like just general PvP.
Right.
For like let's say if you fought against a lot of people with like a mixed variety, let's say light and medium. Let's say they stick with the same thing, light and medium. What would you feel like would be the best opposition against that? If it were changed the way I changed it. So like piercing like spears would have pierce and strike damage. One-handed swords would have
you know,
Yeah,
like the armor would have mitigation types. So I mean, you're
a
still gonna do
specific, yeah.
damage.
Yeah, they're still going to do damage, but they're going to have mitigation types. They'll mitigate specifically those damage types, and they'll have their own specific armor value. So,
I
like,
mean,
light armor... What's up?
they're gonna have the heavy roll because they're not able to roll with light and heavy. So
Yeah,
if they're
but...
gonna have the heavy roll, it's gonna be easy to chop them down.
Yeah,
Because
but I'm
then
saying,
they're
like, heavy...
sacrificing some of their slash or whatever it is, resistance, because they're wearing some light.
Yeah. But light, they'd still have the maneuverability compared, as to where, like, heavy would have
How would
a
they have
higher
the
chance...
maneuverability?
If it's light armor and still has the same roll, I mean, they would still...
No, it doesn't. Because if you wear heavy and light, you get the heavy roll.
No, I'm not saying... No, what I'm saying is that... I'm saying the team composition. Let's say if it's a 5v5. I should have enunciated a little better. So let's say if it's a team composition of a 5v5. One group has a group solely with light and medium armor. Another group has, let's say they have heavy and medium. Now, like, heavy and medium, they both have high blunt heavy would have kind of...
High slash and pierce.
Yeah, high slash and pierce resistance, but low blunt resistance. Medium would be, like, across all the board. Across the board, they'd have pretty decent stats against all types. And light would have high maneuverability and the lowest tier of blunt strike and pierce resistance since it's light armor. So, like, medium would still have the similar, not similar, but close to the speed light armor would have, but they would have something taken from heavy. They wouldn't have as much stagger resistance as heavy,
When we think
but
about this,
some.
wouldn't that make light armor pretty useless though? Because it would be susceptible to almost everything. I mean, I guess you're sacrificing for mobility, but then if like they're gonna do that, they'd have to speed up like the actual initial hits from the light armor and like speed up.
That would be a trade-off. Honestly, they wouldn't consume as much stamina. They'd be faster, and their attacks would technically be faster. I mean, agility would still work the same way, because agility can potentially increase your attack speed slightly, just ever so slightly by like a fraction. Whereas they'd still be able to do some trades. They wouldn't have as much hyper armor. Heavy armor wouldn't have as much hyper armor. It would just have more than light armor. And it would be like, heavy armor would really just be a stand your ground type of setup. They would take less damage, but at the same time, they wouldn't be immune to every single damage type. There'd be a counter to it. Like, blunt and pierce would still be effective. Blunt would be the most effective. Pierce would be second to that. And strike wouldn't be as effective. It would have a specific damage. Like if it's a one-handed sword and it had a decent amount of blunt damage comparatively, but it was mainly a striking weapon, and it had piercing damage as well. The piercing damage attacks, which would be the lunges, which would be the most effective against heavy builds. So there will be a specific playstyle you'd have to play against somebody with a heavy build, whereas if somebody you were opposing was wearing heavy, they'd still have things in their kit to help them fight off anyone who was using those weapons. Like, they wouldn't be staggered as easily. They'd be able to make better trades. They could build in a way where they would have high damage and still take that damage that would be coming in, or they could be built more like tanks. But at the same time, you'd still be able to counter them with with status effects, which I kind of have a theory on how I think status effects should be run too. But like, yeah, there's some things that could be implemented into the game to make like reasonable changes. You see what I'm saying?
I just think they're trying to make it an RPG at this point.
I mean, that's really how it's always been. It is kind of more of a role-playing game now.
RPG. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It doesn't feel that way. Milo has a question. Says, current game, does every armor set and weapon have a counter to it? No. No, it doesn't. That's the problem with the game right now.
The only thing is, like, it's very simplistic in terms of its damage and mitigation types, because I mean, you can't, like, at one point there was nothing that could mitigate the amount of penetration.
Like, if you ask one singular thing can counter another, no. But if you ask, like, if there's a bunch of other things that can, yeah. Like, if you have a bow, there's the spear that can counter it if you're good enough. The sword and the shield can, but then if you
That's
have
still a
something
risk.
like, yeah,
There's still a
no
risk
real
because
hard counter in this game, which there should be. Like with the horse, like you'd need a combo of smoke arrows, katanas, and jabal claws to be able to fight somebody on a horse. That's just counting one person. We're not even talking about a whole clan with horses and
Yeah,
thralls.
because that's the thing too. When they implemented thralls with horses,
That was
completely
just a
changed the game.
bad idea.
Completely changed the game.
That was just a bad idea. In my opinion, that was just a horrible idea. Did even I wasn't I think I was still on my hiatus at that point. Was there a lot of people running horses then?
I heard there was a lot of people running a lot of horses during the penetration meta, but like
Whoa.
bows were the only counter, or were one of the no, it was bows and throwing axes were the counter to that, just because the damage was high enough to kill people. But even then, it was still a risk. It was still a risk to ride a horse, and it was still a risk.
This way actual PvP skill will play more of a key role. Yeah, at this point, it used to, back in the day, you can ask Boss, that your PvP skill used to be very, very high. Like
But
you'd
that's
have
when
to
it
be,
meant something.
yeah,
I
that's
mean,
when it meant something. Now,
there's been so much that's been implemented, and like it's not the same anymore.
it's
Where like
never
I've
gonna
been,
be. It's
yeah,
they've changed the game from when we played. The ancients is what he calls us.
the
When the
ancients, yeah,
ancients used to play, everything's changed since then. So everything that's
and
skill based that we used to rely on and be really good at skill wise is overshadowed by thralls and all this other stuff that doesn't make any sense. Like who thought it was a good idea to have a one shot katana? Who thought that was a good
it's
idea?
just it's been more about the flavor text, man. But
Who
like
thought
how I
having
feel
a
about
bow that can two shot you? Like you know what I mean? Like
it was because a lot of people wanted more of those. Because bow back in the day, I used to use bow, and bow wasn't that good, but I still liked using bow because of it was effective. But at the same time, man, I don't really dislike the idea of having horses or thralls, but they shouldn't be too powerful. They shouldn't be too powerful. I mean, like, they should be strong. They shouldn't be so overwhelmingly powerful that a group of people cannot deal with. If like two horse riders can take out five guys at once, it doesn't really matter about skill. Looking at the game, it
right.
really doesn't. Because I mean, even though there's five guys and they can be, let's say they're all average skill, but those are the two most skilled horsemen in the game. Or no, let's say one of them is pretty decent and the other's equally skilled, just slightly better horsemen.
There is
It's
a way
like
to change it back in a private server. Are you asking if there is a way? Because I know on PC they have it to where you can go back a few patches and you don't have to play on the new patches. But as of now on console, I don't think so.
yeah,
I mean, you
but
can
yeah,
do your best to
okay.
nullify the thralls and the horses, but there's no real way that you could really like completely make it the same way. Because I used to go to the unnamed city and farm that stuff like just for fun, dude. And I'd sit there and run hundreds of players and just mop the floor with them. Because they just like, it's no offense to them, like they just never took the time. But I'm telling you, there is a way. I don't know about it on console, but if you find a way, let me know. I mean, even then, it's still a private server. It's not exactly the same that you'd want it to be. Um, you can make all these weird changes, but
I don't know, man. A lot of people are gravitating more to private servers. There's been a lot more private servers popping up. I mean,
I
people still
believe
play
it
official.
because all official is exploiters, hackers, and stuff like that. DDoSers.
There's too much that can possibly happen outside of control, and since there's no dedicated servers, that's something that can happen. Where if it was like I've thrown this out a few times, Rust. If there was any exploits or any hacking, any fly hacks on Rust, and the whole server got left of it, they'd be banned in 30 minutes. The offending party would be banned in 30 minutes. But besides all that, so let's get back into weapon balancing, or we can keep talking about this. But like the debuffs. I had some ideas about changes to debuffs as well. Like the cleansing debuff needs to be changed.
I don't like the
It
fact
shouldn't
that I don't like the fact that you could take out a weapon, hit somebody, and then
remove their buffs.
yeah, that's just stupid. That's punishing the player. Like they're punishing good players. That's literally their way that they're playing their game right now. They're punishing good players. If I took the time to farm these buffs, and just because you don't know about them doesn't mean you should have something that can remove them. It just means you need to get good and go get the buffs. They're there for everybody.
I think it's more of just like a troll mentality on it. Oh no. It's more like
Troll
it's more like a
mentality.
mechanic that it's more
Everybody
of a mechanic
runs them,
that
bro. Anybody that's good
yeah.
at PvP runs the debuffs.
Pretty much everyone now, yeah. But like the status effects, like I feel like they should make some changes to the status effects as well. Like shit, I wrote down these ideas. I don't even remember what they're about. Let's say let's say for like poison. Like poison's effectiveness should have some changes. Like how it is in Dark Souls. Like it builds up over time. You don't immediately get hit with that stack until like the third or fourth hit, depending on the type of build.
I know what you're
Because
talking about. You're
really,
talking about like the bleed thing that they used to have where
yeah, yeah,
if they
yeah, yeah,
hit you with the thing enough times, it'll take a chunk of your health, saying bleeding, you know, like...
yeah,
Yeah, no. As long as there's no cursed. I hate that fucking status
yeah. Curse
effect.
is pretty bad.
I hate
Curse
it,
is pretty
dude.
bad. It already
I
exists.
hate it. No, it
It's
doesn't.
corruption. It's
That's
corruption.
not curse. That's not curse. Curse was so worse, dude. You'd freeze, your guy would turn into a statue, and you'd die.
Yeah, pretty much.
It was terrible. Oh, don't bring that to this game, please. Now that I say it, they're gonna make corruption. You get so much, your guy just goes, ah! And just
Honestly,
freezes
I
into
feel
a
like there should
statue.
be a positive reason to have corruption.
I do
Corruption
too,
should.
but...
Honestly, this is what I've been theorizing about it. Corruption, since it's like supposed to be like, since these guys worship Set and like they have all these monuments to Set, since like the old the teleportation thing. Like if you get corruption, like a higher value of corruption, like they should give a status effect, where like if corruption, let's say if you have half a bar corruption, the amount of physical and like any type of damage that you take should be reduced by 33 or 50%. And this is just overall mitigation. This isn't armor. Your damage is reduced by 33. Your damage taken is reduced by 33 or almost 50%. But your value of healing is let's say the value of healing is increased by 10% since you have half a health bar and half a stamina bar. So you gave up if you gave up half your health and stamina bar, you could still get your attributes where you want them, but they won't be like the exact amount. You'd have half your health, half your stamina, but you'd have higher mitigation, you'd have higher stamina regen, and you'd have higher health and a slight increase to damage. So let's say all your weapon damage types do increase damage by like let's say 15%. You just do 15% more damage with each attack from any kind of weapon. So like corruption would be kind of valuable to have depending on like how you would build your character.
Malo, hold on. I'm about to read your message. I'm laying down.
Let's see. I feel that it's an equalizer if you take the chance to build your character with buffs, then you should be able to have the skill to fight without them, or build it without buffs.
Right, but then
you can do that.
You could do that. You could fight without buffs, but how
Yeah,
often
I mean, anybody
do you
can
know
do that.
anybody that takes off your buffs that is actually bad at the game? It's not really an equalizer, because if you don't know about buffs, you probably don't know about the set's tone. I'm just saying. Like, you don't know about Mitch's Justice. You don't know about either of those weapons if you don't know about buffs, which means that at that point, the only people that's going to be able to take buffs away is going to be players that are decent players, or at least have a regular knowledge about it. But like, I don't see the point in having something that debuffs you like that. You worked for that. That's like me just walking up to your base, hitting it with a set's tongue, and now half the shit's gone.
It kind of fits into that counterplay aspect of like if somebody's running a really strong build.
I mean,
Whereas like
even if you take away their buffs, it's still gonna be a strong build. That's just, man, I just don't like the fact that your buffs can be taken away. You farm for that.
yeah, I know how you feel.
That's stupid. Why farm for it if you're just gonna have them taken away?
Yeah, because I mean you could die at any moment. Like there's so many things that can kill you in this game. Losing your buffs is like losing your buffs in certain situations can be a matter of life or death. I know that sounds exaggerated, but that's the truth.
Just
dude.
imagine this, right? You have a build. It's a build that you run with because you need 4 vitality and you need 4 strength, right? And you need buffs to have both of those, so that way you can run 2 to 3 agility and 2 grit, 2 encumbrance, right? That's a natural PvP build. You need those buffs and armor values. Now imagine every single time you try to fight somebody, there's horses, there's thralls, and then there's players debuffing you. Just imagine.
I'll be right back.
How pissed would you be? You sit here and you took the time to get all this buffs just to have it all taken away from some dude that didn't even hit you on your screen because of lag, but it hit you and removed all your buffs. So now you're stuck here fighting a 1v maybe 2 or 3, them on horses and thralls, and it's just bad. It's just bad. I don't think that's any skill-based thing. I don't think the set's tongue removing buffs is a good thing. I think that just punishes people who actually know how to play the game. Everybody knows how to buff, or at least should. And if they don't, they'll learn from fighting people that do.
I think it's honestly, I feel like it's a part of counterplay. It is punishing. I wouldn't put it. I wouldn't put it that way.
It is.
I feel like it is punishing.
Good players.
I feel like it is. Go ahead.
You're farming these buffs because you know your build you're going for, and you want to have that extra strength and vitality and stuff. And then some dingleberry from southern, I don't even know, comes up and hits you one time, and it doesn't even hit you on your screen. It's lag, and all your buffs are removed.
I can see what you're saying, but I don't think it's really a skill-based thing. I feel like it's just a form of counterplay.
If it's not a skill-based thing, why is it in a skill-based PvP? You know what I mean? Like, PvP should be more skill-based.
It's key. Well, here's the thing, and I know I'm gonna have to explain this. PvP in this game and just about every game is skill-based. What you're wanting to say is it competitive? No, it is not competitive. Because there's really at its core to have a competitive game, certain things have to be better than others, but at the same time, everyone has to be on equal standing. Which means the game has to have a level of balance, but at the same time, certain weapons can supersede that balance. Like, let's say, Yog's Touch. Yog's Touch can exist, but it shouldn't be easy to obtain.
Right. I don't know, dude. I don't. Y'all could say it's counterplay. I don't agree. So we're gonna agree to disagree.
I feel like it is. I feel like it is for what it is.
If I'm fighting you, and my entire strat was the debuff you just saw, I can run you over with a horse or hit you with a thrall. It is not counterplay. I'm sorry. That's literally just being a dick.
It is. That is being a dick. But I'm thinking of it from the perspective of a 1v1.
Well, if it's a 1v1, that's fine. I could fight somebody without buffs. It doesn't bother me. It's just the fact that I farm for this. I should have the reward for farming this. You don't go farm brimstone and then come back and then all of a sudden, let's say, it's fucking 50% of it's gone. Because fuck you. Because another player was able to hit you with a fucking with a stick.
Oh, you mean for a farming build? Then yeah, you'd be pissed. I'm just saying from an aspect of the game. I'm not arguing.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I completely agree with you. But from my perspective, it exists as a form of counterplay. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying it is the best possible thing for a form of counterplay. That's what I'm saying. I agree with you. I don't like the shit either, but it exists, and that's the only thing that can make sense of it. It is a form of counterplay. That's what.
I don't know what's with AJ's Bane now. I don't know what that is.
Let's say it's counterplay like Adra's Bane. Like I guess he's saying since it has a oh, I see what he's saying. So let's say if you get debuffed and you have an Adra's Bane. So let's say you were not relying on Adra's Bane to give you the tier 4 strength. So let's say you get debuffed and you have the Adra's Bane, and if that's the weapon you like to use, you'll get your tier 4 strength anyway.
That doesn't change the fact that you just got debuffed, so you lost your 4 vitality, so you're healing like a snail. Yep. You lost your 2 grit, so you're not getting it back fast enough. You lost your 2 encumbrance, so I'm just throwing axes down. Like that's just, like we could talk all day about it, but I still think that debuffing someone that has a build, like I'm not gonna change my argument about it because it's not my argument. Is
I understand.
Solid. It's not
I respect it. I respect it. I'm not. Yeah, I completely respect it.
It shouldn't be in PvP. Like I could. What happens when you are farming and someone kills you when you're farming everything in checks and balances? But see, that's not the same as somebody walking up to you while you're trying to farm, right? You're farming brimstone, I walk up with the set stun, hit you, now guess what? Now you're no longer full encumbrance, now you're just standing there trying to roll away as I kill you and take everything you farm for. Are you seeing my point now? Like, that's not fair. It's not right. If we're gonna use that as an example, you farm that stuff you have your build to be able to go out and farm with 2 survival or 3 survival, I can't remember, I think it's 2 survival, max encumbrance, and somebody just walks up, hits you with the set's tongue, oh, now you don't have max encumbrance, sorry. That's not fair. That's not even counterplay at that moment. I destroyed you with one weapon.
That's kind of how it's been for a while, though.
I
Like,
know,
a lot of people
but it's part of the game, you say. I mean, I don't, I'm not, yeah, it's part of the game, but I'm just saying that it shouldn't be.
Yeah, that's. I kind of agree with that. Well, no, I do agree with that because I mean, because that kind of exists. That's where it is.
Yeah.
It's not a good
I mean,
argument,
if you
but
want to fight, if you
that's
ever
literally
go
the
out to
truth.
find people that are farming or do what we call farming, like I used to do back in the day, just have like you always have a bearer or your friend around wherever you're farming people at, or a thrall. All you gotta do is walk up to the dude encumbrance. Don't even hit him, because he's gonna run. He's gonna run to the water or something. Hit him with a real quick fucking set's tongue. You're golden. You won the fight. Done. That's it. That's dumb. I might as well have a crit axe at that point. I don't know. I just think it's a really cheap way to play in PvP, and it's gonna be always, in my opinion, the least skillful thing to do in this game. In fact, I think it's more. I'm almost calling it a douchebag way to play. I'm almost there. Because you're intentionally ruining somebody else's experience by doing that.
That's how it is. That's how it is with this game, though. You gotta remember, man. We're not. There's no good or evil in this game, dude.
I don't even think there is a fucking definition or even a word good or evil in this game.
Because I mean, like,
Barbaric.
yeah, that's what we are. We're just barbarians, dude. So that's just another aspect to the hell that we live in. That's just my 2 cents on that shit. Granted,
How the
I
hell
don't
did
like.
we have horses in the desert? That don't make any sense either.
I try not to look at the specifics too much. Come on, bus.
You know what
So,
I'm
like,
saying, though.
Yeah. So let's talk about the bleeding status effects, because I wanted to talk about buffs. So I have this idea called blood clotting, and thick skinned. So with let's say you get the bleeding status effect on you, and
You
it
brought up
ticks
a
up to
good
9.
point. Hold on, you just brought up a really good point. Why don't they have more perks like that? Actually, as perks that you get. Like, all right, let's go through some. All right, hold on. We're gonna do this right now. We're gonna go over here to. No, we're all gonna do this. I want you to go to your attributes right now and tell me how many attributes really fucking matter.
Not many.
The first perk in strength, thuggery. Every blow
depends
you
on what you're
strike
using.
with a blunted weapon deals 100% more concussive damage. Stupid. Why is that even there?
It's only for thralls.
It don't
It's only
matter.
for thralls.
It don't matter. Why do you need that when you could have a thrall yourself hit him with a truncheon?
Pretty
Even
much, yeah.
so, you could hit them with an actual truncheon and knock them out.
Or
very
they really
quickly.
could have changed a lot of the perks where, like, depending on the attributes you get, would increase your thuggery skill. It wouldn't
Like-
directly. It would be a different main.
Like, look at Vitality. What in Vitality says deep breath, your breath timer is doubled? Why? What is that? What does that accomplish? In Vitality, the first perk says deep breath, your breath timer is doubled.
Oh, for when you're swimming?
Yes.
It doesn't
like,
really
what
do
is-
anything. When was that? Wait, was that always that?
Yes, that's what I'm trying to say. Is there's
You're
perks
kidding.
that are dumb. Yes, that's
never
been like
noticed
that
that.
since the very beginning of the game.
I felt like the breath timer should really just be the same.
That's what I'm trying to say. Is it literally makes no sense. There should be things like thick skin, stuff like that. Like we go down
So,
to
like,
we
here's
go down
my
to grit,
idea with,
right? We go down to grit. We have strong grip. You use 10% less stamina whenever you climb.
That's acceptable. That's acceptable.
Is it
because
really?
is
Do you know
climbing.
how much 10% is?
You use 10% less stamina whenever you climb. Is that every single climb though? It's every single time you climb up.
Why? When you could just put more grit or have climbing gloves that are supposed to do that for you.
Not everybody knows about climbing gloves, surprisingly enough. You gotta remember that stuff. A lot of people are still very new to the game. Or a lot of people don't pay attention to that shit.
Hard worker,
That's
you
not.
harvest resources faster. This one has brutal strikes, slice and dice, salting the wound.
But we're like, let's go back to thuggery. Like, I feel like thuggery should be a status. Like, I wish I could show you. So, like, if you clear out your stats,
Right.
you should get that, but you should get that progressively.
Can
You
I,
should
can
get
I,
that
can I
What's up?
say something here? I think they should have
Go
in
ahead.
between perks, bro.
In between perks? What do you mean?
Like, alright, so you know how there's like 4
Oh, you mean like a
tips?
skill tree?
Kinda, not really though. Like, it's more of like when you're building up strength, you have the big perk, thuggery, whatever it is, and then right when you're building up, like 5 points instead of 10, there's another perk, but it's a smaller perk, like a passive.
Let's say this is for strength. It's something that gives you a. Let's say it gives you some sort of small buff similar to encumbrance. It's
And
only
only one, what? Oh yeah, so way to stop bleeding. It's the only one that doesn't have a potion elixir bandages still harm you in a way if you don't have elixir for you. Yep. That's true.
But yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like a stat like so. Let me explain.
Like
Clotting and
vitality should have that shit. Like, you know, like
blood clotting and thick skinned. So here's how I think it should be. Blood clotting. It should be a percentage based value that scales to a certain point.
I
Let's
mean,
say,
look at the last 3 fucking things of the fucking agility tree. Tell me you wouldn't change those. Tell me you wouldn't. Just
nimble when dodging, your armor counts as double. The last we'll talk about it in a second, but like
jump
blood clotting and
while in the air to do a double jump.
you
Like
cut
all
me off,
3 of
man.
those.
I'm trying to say this shit.
All right, we'll say it.
So blood clotting should reduce the effectiveness. Oh no, blood clotting should reduce the duration of the bleed timer, whereas thick skin will reduce its will reduce the effectiveness of bleed altogether. So you'd have the option to, so that would give you, let's say you had a pretty decent amount, so like you had blood clotting and thick skin, so you'd have the option to still keep bleeding on you. You wouldn't be able to heal, but let's say if you had 20 stacks of bleed on you, which should probably get rid of that shit. So if you had blood clotting and you had thick skin, so the effectiveness of the bleed itself would be reduced, and the duration. So let's say it would reduce the duration from 10 seconds to 6 or 5 seconds, and its damage. Let's say it does 20 points of damage each tick. 20 points is reduced to 10 or 9. So it'd be less effective against builds that would actually have that. It wouldn't be easy to get the highest value, but it would still be possible. You'd have to still make sacrifices, stuff like that. Or another one, let's look at the Sunder for Warhammer. I had another idea called Rattled Skull. So instead of just the sundering effect, since you have to work hard for the sundering effect to land, what Rattled Skull does, it gives you a percentage value of the sunder effect. If you can still get it to stacking, if you can still get it to stack to 5 sunder, good. You would only get 10% less of the sunder's effect. Because I mean, think about it. Even if something's wearing heavy armor, let's say you do it to a thrall, if you hit them 5 times the sunder or 4 times the sunder, their armor value is already going to be almost at 0 anyway. So let's reduce that by 10%. Whereas Rattled Skull, even one effect, so let's say Rattled Skull, the first effect, it will reduce the armor value by, let's say 10%, 10 or 12%. But at the same time, it reduces the effectiveness of your opponent's damage by 5 or 8%. And it stacks, let's say you get it to 5 stacks of Rattled Skull, it would reduce their effective weapon damage by 25%. It would reduce their armor value by, let's say, a total of 40 to 45%, and it would give one more extra ability, which I haven't come up with yet. I feel like it should have one more. Huh?
Okay, I thought that was an encumbrance for a minute. Nothing, go on.
So yeah, that was pretty much that. Or like, how about, let's say it changed to Cripple. Cripple should still have its effectiveness to reduce someone's speed, but at the same time, Cripple should reduce the effectiveness of somebody's healing. Their healing should be reduced by a certain percentage when you stack them with Cripple. Because where Cripple stands is, Cripple is pretty effective for what it is, but it only, like, its major effectiveness only comes in for, like, when the effect ends. So when Cripple stops, it stops any progress of healing. Whereas when the duration is going on, Cripple should reduce the value of healing overall. So let's say if you get 5 stacks of Cripple on somebody, its effectiveness for removing their movement for reducing their movement speed should be left almost the same, but if it's going to reduce their healing, it should have some sort of leadway. So let's say we reduce cripples speed reduction by let's say 10% to the maximum stack. Let's say its stack of movement speed. They were given an extra 10% movement speed, or how should I say this? Like its effectiveness is reduced by 10% in terms of movement speed. But if you stack it to 5, you stack crippled to 5, their effective healing ability is reduced by 25 to 30%. So they wouldn't be able to completely heal. So if they were using, like on average with the herbal tea and hardy stew, you can pretty much completely heal. Whereas like with that conjunction, if they get hit with like 3 or 4 stacks, their healing would be reduced by like 25 to 30%. So that means they wouldn't always be able to heal. So that they wouldn't be able to heal up completely. You see what I'm saying? So it would bring more versatility into combat. And then there could
Go ahead.
And then there could be, like you said, there could be perks that could amplify those certain things. Like let's say in a strength tree, you could have something that would increase the chance of applying cripple. So let's say if weapons didn't immediately apply those status effects that were more focused on, let's say, developing through perks. Like there was a cripple modifier or a bleed modifier, like it would develop over time rather than just having it. Or if you used poison status effects, they would do that. They would build up over time rather than come immediately. So it'd be something more of like if you hit somebody with a sword that had effective cripple on it. So let's say if like cripple was something built into the weapon, but it had a percentage value that would increase its effectiveness to cripple your opponent. So let's say like a black guy's broadsword, it would have way more effectiveness to cripple somebody than a white blade. Or let's say no, let's reverse that. Since the black guy's broadsword is already effective at freezing somebody, which I'm going to get into the frigid bite perk in a minute because I think they can make some adjustments. I have some ideas about that. Where like the white blade, it would be more effective at crippling just by design.
I wish they'd have made this game a little bit more like Dark Souls with the lock-on, because the lock-on is atrocious.
I don't know.
And I feel like they should have damage multipliers on your back too, like when your back's turned to your opponent.
No, I don't think that can work.
Why not? If you have a decent lock-on, like Dark Souls, if they had that, I think if they was able to implement that in some way, then having something to where if they hit you in the back it does like 2 times damage wouldn't be that hard.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
That prevents you from fighting an opponent with your back turned to them.
That prevents you from running as well.
Well, not really.
A lot of people might not like that.
There's no real way to hit them while you're running unless you're able to outrun them.
Throwing axes, dude. Throwing axes would be the hard counter to runners. I mean, obviously they already were, but like throwing axes would. That's too, man. You cannot have that.
Add a grapple. Fuck, I don't know.
No, man. No, I don't think that's not a bad idea. But like, at the state of where it is now, or I mean, even if let's say it was in the realm that where my ideal Conan, it could work. It could work.
That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah, it could work. It could work, but it'd be fucking like it really would not be in your benefit to run.
I want you to really think about this. Encumbrance. Encumbrance is a measure of how much you can carry, right?
Yeah.
Deflection. You have a chance to ignore armor and shield durability loss when hit. Why in the great blue fuck is that in Encumbrance? Why?
Deflection. You have a chance to ignore armor and shield durability when they'll hit. That'd be more of a survival thing, honestly.
That's what I'm saying! That don't make sense. There's things that don't make sense.
There are some perks that should be changed. I feel like survival is probably the most well put together, because it all does that. Well, here's the thing. They could have that.
I usually run 2 grit, man. This is the build I had because I was.
Here's the thing with that though. Let's say if they did change that, no one would run survival. Let's say they switched just one perk, the hard worker perk, and switch that perk with switch the hard worker perk with deflection. No one would use survival. except to like.
Then that should be an idea of, like, they should add things to strengthen survival at that point. If they know that that's the only reason why people use survival, then there's a problem with their survival. Let's talk about survival
It's just
for a
that it's
minute.
not as valuable.
Survival
It's
is a
only
measure of
valuable.
your ability to live in harsh conditions. So, first of all, the third perk in Vitality, gone. Or second, my bad, gone. Shouldn't even be there. Impervious, all temperature effects are diminished. Doesn't that sound like it should go in survival?
Pretty much, yeah. But I mean, the way they
That's what
set
I'm
the
trying
perks
to
up.
say. Is there should be some changes to the perks. Iron Endurance. Sprinting drains less stamina. Honestly, that's okay for agility, but I think that's more meant for grit. Grit determines the size of your stamina pool. This is agility is a measure of your ability to act after a dodge. It also has a direct effect on armor. That makes 0 sense to have falling damage is halved and sprinting drains less stamina. That makes no sense to be in that category. Jumping no longer costs stamina. That almost the entire line of perks and agility need to be scrapped and redone because they don't make sense. They don't. Like if strength determines the damage that you do in melee, okay, all that makes sense. It's like they look at strength and they did that one right? Because that looks like it's all influenced on melee damage, right? Even the concussive damage. And then we have agility over here. Your ability to act after dodge, and it also, which the direct effect on armor means it's adding 4 armor every 4 ticks or whatever, you know what I mean? Like that one thing. So, yeah. Agility is a measure of your ability to act after a dodge. Where in this perk list do you see it say that it speeds it up? It even has it to where it says when dodging your armor counts as double. You know what? That's fine, because it has the word dodge in it. That's the only thing out of the entire tree there that makes any fucking sense for the definition of the actual thing. Vitality. Vitality determines the size of your health pool. Okay, so deep breath apparently affects health. All temperature effects apparently is going to increase the stamina of the size of my health pool. This one makes sense. You gain passive health regenerations. That one makes sense. Receptive and gluttonous gains make sense.
That's another thing. Go ahead, keep going.
And let's go to accuracy. Eye for injury. Crippling shots with a bow are more severe. Okay, that makes sense. Throwing axes they will ricochet. Makes sense. Steady hand. All damage. What?
All range and thrown weapons now do 10% more damage.
Accuracy determines the damage that you do with a ranged weapon, right? Okay, so that makes sense. Flattening shot shouldn't be there. That makes no sense. That does not affect your damage towards a player. Every headshot deals 50. Everything but flattening shot in there makes sense. Even steady hands, I almost have a feeling that doesn't make much sense, but we're going to go away from that. Grit. Okay, determines the size of your stamina health pool. Strong grip. You use 10% less stamina whenever you climb. Makes no... I guess it does, but it's not increasing your stamina pool. Barbaric tenacity. You gain an additional 10 stamina per tick regeneration speed. That shouldn't even... Honestly, that shouldn't even be there. That shouldn't be there.
You
It
think
doesn't
so?
increase the size of your stamina pool. It's not doing what the fucking stat intends.
It's collectively with stamina though, dude.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, for the definition, that makes no sense. You need
can't think
40
of just
strength,
only the
45
stat.
vitality, 20 agility, 20 grit, 20 encumbrance, rest, weapon.
I see what you're saying, but it's with the...
I know what you're saying, Loco. Lobo, my bad. This is a build that I've had for a while that I fucked with. I'm not even wearing PvP really armor, bro. Iron muscles, you gain a natural resistance to damage. That shouldn't be there, period. That makes no sense to grit. Your basic attacks cost less stamina, that's fine. Artful dodger, that's fine, because it's draining less stamina. If you're going to go off the fact that 10% stamina regeneration's fine, then artful dodger's fine. Encumbrance. Like I said earlier, deflection makes no sense. And sure-footed makes no sense. They make no sense. Encumbrance is the measure of how much you can carry. Well, sure-footed doesn't do anything with that, and neither does deflection. So why is that in that category? Survival. Survival is a measure of your ability to live in harsh conditions. It affects how easily you metabolize food. Okay. Raw and bloody meat, that makes sense. You harvest resource nodes faster. That does not make sense. Every animal harvested provides extra resources. Does not make sense. Antidote of 1. Invulnerability to poisons and disease. Strength of determine. That makes sense. Bronze physique. Does not make sense.
Dude, you're only thinking of it from the aspect of, like, fighting.
No, I'm thinking of it as the definition of the fucking
You can't look at it
thing.
that way. You can't
You
look at
have
it that
to.
way, dude.
It's survival, and it tells you what the survival stat does. If these perks don't help that stat, why is it in that stat category, Mars?
Dude,
If I
you
said
have
when I
to.
say you get 4, all right, look. If I say you get, let's look at it from an ESO or something perspective, right?
I'm listening. Go ahead.
Let's look at it from like a perspective. You're doing a stat to get its effect, right? The definition of its effect. If the perks don't make sense in that stat, it should not be in that stat. It does not make sense, Mars. If I sit there and say you're gonna get 4 strength, you're gonna do 40 plus 40% more damage, that's gonna make sense, right? Because it's in the strength. If I say you're gonna do 40 strength and you're gonna be able to breathe underwater longer, does that make sense?
No.
My point. That shouldn't be a perk. If it does not help the overall definition or usage of that perk, or the definition of the perk, then it should not be in that perk. Period. There's no arguing. There's no debating. No matter what you say, there's nothing you can say that's going to change my mind. There's zero. Because in Vitality, the first perk, double your breath timer, does nothing to determine the size of your health pool. It's literally a useless perk. There's nothing there. It's useless. It really is useless unless you're running a dungeon, but still, it's useless. There's a mask for that. There's breathing potions. Like, there's other things that counter that. I don't know. And iron conditioning, spending rings of stamina, shouldn't even be in agility. That should be in grit. Iron muscles should be in agility. That should be the first one of agility, because agility has a direct effect on armor. The grit does not. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Woohoo! I'm glad I've gotten through to you. That's exciting, because I'm like, what is this? This needs changed. It needs looked at. This whole thing.
I'm not arguing with you. I'm saying like some of those things do go with those skill sets though. Like with survival, the hard worker perk. If you're surviving in a harsh environment, you're going to need those skill perks or those skill sets. Like Vitality, I got you. Grit, I understand what you're saying about barbaric tenacity, but it has
You're saying
everything
hard
to
worker. You don't think hard worker should go with more of an encumbrance?
Yeah, it should. I totally agree, but it's in the survival tree. If that's how they're scaling it, I even said that earlier. Hard worker should be swapped out with encumbrance, with the encumbrance skill deflection. Those two should be very different.
I think survival needs a buff.
Survival needs changes.
Yeah.
Survival would need changes. Encumbrance would need changes. Grit, I think, should stay the same, but with subtle changes. Vitality would definitely need changes. Accuracy should be reduced, honestly. It's too strong.
It's so OP. Like, flattening shot shouldn't even be an accuracy, and neither should every headshot. It should have already had headshot should have already done additional damage. It doesn't need a perk to do that. Like, that's just common sense. If I shoot you in the head, it's gonna do more damage.
But yeah, Vitality. What would you put there instead of that?
Well, I mean, let's move stuff down here. I think.
Because
first of all,
honestly,
the first 2 perks of Vitality shouldn't even be there. All temperature effects are diminished should be in survival.
Here's my thing. Those should be sub perks. Those should be sub perks.
That's what I was trying to talk about earlier.
I know. That's what you're saying.
Add the 5 points where you got the first 10, right? There's always a 5. You go 10, 5, 10, or whatever, right? So you go the 10th tick, 5 points, you get another perk, and then another 5. Every 5 points.
Because that shouldn't be a major perk.
Impact.
That shouldn't be a major perk because in the if this comes from the early stages of the game, you are almost never gonna be underwater. Hell, most of the times you're not underwater most of the time. The time you spend in the water roughly probably 10 minutes per day, probably less. And that's probably getting from one zone to the next, unless you have vaults underwater. That's the only thing I can think of.
Imagine what you'd have to do if you wanted to go somewhere, right? Like this would moving impervious and deep breath to survival would mean that you would need to put more points in survival. You know what I mean? Like it would make you have.
That should be an effect that should increase by a percentage value. Like you can get impervious. But you would like just putting points in survival. You should get impervious. Just by putting points in survival, you should get the perk called the sub perk called impervious. Not the whole thing, but just percentage based. So let's say like put 3 points in. You get like 1 point. You get like 2% of
I actually have 3
imperviousness.
points in my survival.
But yeah, like a lot of the major perks, which I agree should be sub perks. They should not be major perks.
Even if I don't even think they should be in the branch. Like they just don't make sense in the branch, man.
They
Like
would have to change. They
vitality,
would
we
have to
could
change how
change
that
things
works.
like vitality direct determines the size of your health pool. Why are we not? Why are we running around here with like 500 HP at max vitality when we could have buffs in our vitality category that buffs our health?
Excuse me.
You know what I'm
They'd
saying?
have to.
Like this makes less corruption on your health bar. Boom! Whoa! Wow! That's a really good perk to have in vitality.
I feel like that'll be a survival perk. Collectively, I see what
Well,
you're
it
saying.
wouldn't because it's determining the size of your health pool.
Hold on. You should determine the like if it were like because that would conflict with what I said earlier. How like if you get a half bar of corruption. Let's say if his survival corruption. Let's say corruption effects are less severe. And that would be a that would be a sub product rather than a like that'd be a sub skill rather than a major perk. So like if you put points into survival, you get, let's say if you just had a certain percentage of it, let's say if you had 20% less effective, you're 20% more effective to corruption. So you wouldn't be affected by corruption as much. It wouldn't do as much corruption damage to your character. That's what I think.
Right.
Like that's not a bad idea, but like it should be like something like that should be a sub skill. Whereas like instead of this, like for vitality, like for the first skill, let's say it's something that augments your survivability. Let's say I'm not sure. What would you want to have the first point of vitality as? What would you say? I had to take my headset off.
I didn't say anything. I'm just saying
Oh.
that overall, because I don't know, dude. It's just, there's a lot of
Well,
things.
this is why we're throwing out ideas, man.
Well,
Just
let's
throwing
make some
ideas,
changes here. Let's say that if we were in a position, deep breath, I think would go to survival. Cause
No,
if you're
scrap
underwater.
that shit. We're not even keeping that. Let's just say, like, if we put something else there, like, make something up. That's what I'm saying. What would you put there?
Vitality, I would put like your overall health overall health is increased by 10%, like stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, just it's not even hard.
Or actually, I got an idea. How about hmm, I would want to say I would move one of the stats that are already there downward. So let's take out deep breath and diminishing return,
Impervious.
deep breath and impervious. Let's scrap that. Let's put passive health regeneration at tier 1.
Yes.
Let's put that at tier 1.
I think tier 3 should be receptive.
Increase healing effects of nah, that should be late. That should be tier 4. That should be tier 4. That's
So.
yeah, man. That should be.
No, tier 4 should be
It would.
wellness gains because the whole thing about honestly there should be a stat for healing, to be honest, but we're not going to get into that.
That would have to be a sub skill. That would have to be a sub skill. You can't really.
I don't know. I still feel like receptive is a 3 vitality thing. Like I think fierce.
That's a very strong skill, man.
It's really.
That's a very strong
I know
skill.
it is, but if it's a 3, you should be able to. It's vitality, bro.
It would cut out a lot of people trying to debuff too. Like debuff wouldn't matter because you'd still be able to heal all the way through it. So I can see why you want to say that. I kind of want to add in. I kind of want to say in like status effects are less effective against you. I want to put that in there. Like poison.
That'd be a survival thing though.
Yeah, that's why I kind of refrained from doing that. So whereas like let's see. For vitality, like what would I put there? What would I put there? I'm trying to think. If we did this a little while ago, I would have had the idea by now. I don't know. I don't know. What else would you put there as a secondary skill? Because let's say we do put receptive as a tier 3 skill and gluttonous gains goes as a tier 4 skill. Because gluttonous gains would have to be reduced by a percentage. Because gluttonous gains is really fucking strong, dude.
Why didn't they just have receptive go down by 50% for a third?
That's acceptable. That's acceptable. That would work. That would work. Reduce receptive by 50%.
Increased healing effects consumable dances by 50% for the third perk. And then for the fourth perk, it could be increasing it by 50. You know, you actually get it, but you know what I mean?
Nah.
I'm just saying, like,
it's
not,
too strong.
I mean,
Too strong.
well, I mean, that's healing now. I mean, it wouldn't be that bad. I gotta go, guys. Great stream. Your points have been echoed throughout the community. Keep up giving out all the good info. Server is always open to you guys.
Appreciate it, homie. You get some rest, alright? Have a good day. I'm thinking of something that would, like, I'm trying to think. I've had these fucking ideas for a week. I haven't looked back at them. So if it's for vitality, not just in terms of healing or health, there should be some stat that increases your overall mitigation as well, since it's vitality. I feel like the definitions are too simplistic, too, if you're only going off the definitions. Vitality in most roles usually affects the amount of tankiness, it affects the health pool, and it affects the regeneration. How about, I feel like survival and vitality should be combined. How do you feel about that?
Survival and vitality?
Yeah, their skill tree should be combined into something else. Or they should have
things that touch together, yeah, but I don't know if they should be combined.
Yeah. Be too easy to build. So we have fucking regeneration on the first perk. I don't know what I'm gonna put as the second perk. Third and fourth perk already there.
So the second perk of vitality. I'm just thinking of stuff that the strength does. Look at it. It says each light attack you do inflicts 10%, and then brutal strikes each heavy attack now inflicts 15%.
I think strength is fine, honestly.
I know, but I'm saying that if we go off of what they did there and we put it in vitality, why don't we just have the receptor be 50%, the second perk be overall health increased by 20%, and then the first one is your
Oh, that works.
You
That's
know
not
what I mean?
bad.
Like passive health regen.
I think any massive increase to health like a percentage base should be last.
I don't know. I think that should be first. I don't know. I disagree. I think that should be first. Healing should be last.
Okay, I can get down with that. Healing should be last. Increase to vitality should be first. Because I mean, even if you have a massive health, actually, yeah, that's actually not a bad idea. Yeah, let's do 20%. Let's do 20% increased. 20% increase to maximum health as a second perk. That would work. I'd be down for that. Because that way, I mean, you're already going to have difficulty surviving. So that'll help you with the healing factor. And plus, anybody who's already past your level is still going to have more health in you.
Yep.
And that way, that would help deal with Thralls who would try to kill you instantly.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't die instantly. You still have some more health left. Now let's look at agility, since we got the vitality thing figured out. So let's go ahead and... Okay, Iron Endurance should be... I feel like Iron... That should definitely be in grit. That should be combined with Barbaric Tenacity. And I don't even think
Cat-like should even be in this game. It really shouldn't. Cat-like falling damage...
Dude, that shit was broken. That shit was broken back in the day.
I honestly think all this stuff in this whole... I think really we just need to make 5 new things, because all this sucks in agility.
How about
with the definition of it?
How about we use the old Nimble Tumbler? How about the old Nimble Tumbler?
That's fine.
That can stay. The old one can stay. That one was the best.
The Nimble Tumbler where you're like goes. Yeah, it was because it goes off of if you were wearing medium, you'd go light. That makes sense. That's agility. The ability after a dodge. That makes sense because you're coming up faster. You know what I mean? Like.
Yeah.
All right. So Iron Endurance,
and
scrap it.
What about 5? What about 5 though? Hold on. What about 5?
Fuck that. I'm saying everything.
Wait a minute. Hold on. A lot of people like that.
I do not.
Well, I guess. Okay. Let's just scrap it.
It's unrealistic, and if I were to just over encumber and jump in your head, that's dumb. No. Scrap that. That's not even cool. I don't even like it.
Yes, good. Gotcha. Okay, sprint. The iron endurance should be combined with a tier 1 grit. No. That should be combined with iron endurance should be combined with barbaric tenacity. Those should both be sub perks. And their value needs to be reduced.
Okay.
I'll say why later. So let's see, for agility, sprinting,
First perk,
resistance,
I
stamina.
think, would be your attack coming up increased by 5%. Easy. Like, just like, you know what I mean? Like,
I mean, it does that when you just put points into it. It gotta be something else. Because you can't.
Yours does that when you put it in strength too, but they still got percentage increases.
That's only for the weapon, those effects.
But
so
it's
like
the overall percentage increase. It's not just the tick percentage. You know what I mean? Like if you're getting like let's say you're getting 4 armor for agility.
That's the problem too.
I guess it also has a direct effect on armor, so why not add some armor shit in there? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it can. It can. That's what I'm thinking too. That's what I was gonna say. Like
what is it? Fucking armor.
You know what? Fuck it. Let's go with like you said, and slight increase to, let's say 10% increase to roll recovery as the first perk.
Yes.
10%. Flat out, just a 10% increase to roll recovery.
Yep.
Second should be, let's say, let's not make it too. Yeah,
Iron
it could
natural
be.
resistance. You gain a natural resistance to damage. That should be second perk in agility.
Or no, it should be armor focused since it's.
It is armor focused.
No, not natural resistance. Armor mitigation. It should be armor. Well, not armor mitigation. Armor value should increase by 10%.
Okay, that's
10
fine.
10 to 15%, because it has to be competitive, but it can't be too powerful. It can't be too powerful, because then it'd be too incentivized to actually go for that stuff. That's how metas are created. I mean, metas aren't necessarily bad. It's only when they're just like unbalanced. So like so effective effortless leap. So it should have agility as a measure of your ability to act after a dodge. Should it have an effect on attack speed? No. Oh shit, that should be a thing with strength, attack speed. Strength should have a mechanic in it that increases the stack.
Is the increase
just by a small.
Agility,
yeah.
Agility is how fast you should be able to hit. But
honestly, yeah. It should be a slight. Okay, let's say that. Depending on the value of armor that you use, it will affect your attack speed.
Yes, there we go.
Not negatively. If you're wearing heavy armor, you will not have the slowest attacks. Realistically, heavy armor is not slow to begin with. But if you're using heavy armor, and you have it at tier 3, you get a slight increase to attack speed. Whereas like medium and light are always going to be faster than you. But light armor will have the fastest attack speed. We're not talking about hyper armor. We're talking about specifically attack speed.
Like
so that way
poke,
you...
roll, poke type thing. You know what I mean?
No, that shit's not going to happen. I'm not down for that. It's like general attack speed should be increased across the board when you get to tier 3 agility.
Yeah.
And it'll be completely affected by the value of armor that you're using. I mean, if you're not using any armor, you're
saying it's different percentages depending on the armor.
Yes, and it's not going to be so game breaking. Let's say if you were in heavy armor, it's a 3% increase. Medium armor, 5%. Light armor, 7%. It has a diminishing value over time, but it's effective. It's a noticeable effect that will affect the game.
Then wouldn't you want something like light armor to have like a 5%, and then heavy armor have, or medium armor have 10, and then the heavy have 15?
You mean attack speed?
Because if the armor itself is already going to give you the increase in speed of attacking.
So, keep going. You're saying heavy armor should be faster?
What I'm saying is that, right, like, when you look at the percentages, right, so if we're going with our idea of Conan, and the people that have light already naturally strike faster without this perk, if we add something that makes them strike even faster without being on par, you know what I mean? Like, it's going to break it. It's going to make light armor meta again. It's going to make it to where you can poke roll because you're hitting so fast. You see what I'm saying?
So what are you suggesting?
Have to put it at, like, the low end of the percentages that it increases.
So you're saying heavy armor should strike faster than light armor?
It should be able to match light armor with the third tick. You know what I'm saying? With the speed of the
I
attack.
see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. So you're trying to make it balanced. I see.
Yeah, yeah. It should be able to even out unless they have the tick as well in light, which means they'll strike just slightly faster. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's what I'm
So
trying to do.
let's say there's a specific percentage then. Let's say depending on if you have heavy armor, the percentage would be higher because your strike speed was already lower. I see what you're saying. So the values for light armor would only increase it by like 1 or 2%. Medium armor would be 2 to 3, and heavy armor would be 3 to 5. So
Yep.
heavy armor would have something that would be close to medium, and it'd be almost equal to medium, but still a little bit less than light.
Mm-hmm.
But once you pull into the nimble tumbler, the old nimble tumbler, where you become one rank lower in terms of roll speed, you would
Yeah.
be at medium armor, so you'd almost be as fast as light armor.
Yep.
I see what you're saying there. That's a good idea. That would work. Now the last perk,
Because we all
what
know
the
how
hell should
fucking hard that was to get when we was using the old alpha builds.
yeah,
Just to
that
get
was
debuffed.
man, I'd be fucking livid, dude. I would be.
Alright. And the last perk?
So the last one should be something really significant. It should be something that it should be something that's still competitive. It should be something that's still competitive, but is still way more effective. Well, I guess I shouldn't say way more effective, but effective enough to be game changing.
Use something like Berserk Rage when you're below this percentage, you you strike 5% or 10% faster.
Yeah, that would be badass.
That would be, I
That'd
think,
be
like, it'd
That'd be
be like,
badass. Be a berserker. You'd be a berserker.
yeah,
You'd have increased like.
like a Berserker gets
Yo!
you whenever you're below 25%.
I got it.
You
I
deal
got it.
50%
I got
more
it, dude. I
damage.
got it. I got it. How about something that's like an all-arounder? Like, how about this? Like something similar to Berserk Rage. Or this is just an idea. I don't think I want to do this exactly with the last tier of agility. So, excuse me. When you become when you get below 25% health, your
I
movement
think they should
speed
up that.
increases.
It should be about like when you get below 35, because 25 is a little
Nah,
too low.
25 is
It's too
you don't
low.
want those.
You're one shot by anything. It's too low.
Yeah,
It's
that's
too
the
low.
trade-off. That's the trade-off, dude. That's
But
the
you'll
trade-off.
never get a
But,
chance to hit anybody with it.
yeah, you will. I do it all the time.
Dude, the only time I've ever been killed by Berserk Rage is when I've gotten cocky and come in because I'm being retarded. I have
Yeah,
never
that's
ever
what happens.
else been killed by it.
It's a live by the sword, die by the sword thing, dude. You cannot get that at
I don't know,
35. 35. That 10% is a huge number, depending on the amount of health that
Well, I mean,
somebody has.
if they were to take Berserk Rage and you deal 25% more melee damage and make it 35%, would that work?
It would work, but dude, like that 10%, like you can live off of that.
I've
can
never,
live off of that.
I don't like using Berserk. It always gets me killed whenever I try to do it because I want to go in and I'm just gonna die because they're gonna poke me.
Well,
I don't know. I've
Guess
had
'cause you're
games
trying
where
to
I've
integrate
used it and killed them with a spear where I've hit them, rolled towards them, hit them again, and rolled towards them. Imagine having a 5 strength, 5 agility.
yeah, I mean, but anyway, yeah, like I was saying, like the tier 5 agility, like when you get to a certain value of health, let's say 25%, your movement speed increases.
I don't know about that one. I don't like that one.
You like that one? Alright, cool.
That one doesn't make sense for agility.
I would
I
like to
still
say
think-
something about evasion.
I think that would
but
be
there's
better
already
with grid. I
invincibility
think that would be
frames.
better with grit. What you just said.
In terms
like-
of speed?
Yes, because grit is your stamina and that's how fast you run. Agility is your effect after dodging and your direct impact on armor.
How about this?
Like I said,
Easy
attack
switch up.
speed.
Easy switch up. Easy switch up. When you get down below 25% health, your armor value is almost doubled.
No.
Well, your
'cause
mitigation.
At that point, you're pretty much dead. No.
Okay, so let's scrap that whole part of the idea then.
Here's my idea, and I want you to listen because I think this is
Go
the
ahead.
best one I could come up with. When you are below 35% or 25%, whichever you want it to be, your hit speed is increased by 25%.
Your attack speed?
Yes.
25%?
Which means you're basically a fucking speed demon.
Just the attack speed, so no rolling
Just the
and
attack
stabbing.
speed. Nothing like that, just the attack speed.
I
So
feel like
you
that's
already
more of a
have
strength
fast
thing.
rolls. No, because attack speed is direct. The
I
mount
guess
have
it
to
can
keep them
fix
up.
that.
You know what I'm saying? Like you're able to hit faster. You're low health. You're gonna want to hit and run when you're low health, or at least get away to where you can heal.
There would probably be some builds that would integrate tier 5 agility and
That's what
try
I'm
and tier
5
tier 5
strength.
strength.
That's what I'm
So
trying to say.
you'd be a glass cannon. You'd be a very fast glass cannon.
That's what I'm trying to
That
say.
could be interesting. That could be interesting because you wouldn't be invincible.
Because that would be kind of you wouldn't
You
be.
wouldn't
but
be
you could still
invincible,
hit very
but you
quickly.
could
You'd
fuck
be
somebody up
with
really
light
quickly.
armor. I think it should also skill from the armor you're wearing too. You know what I mean?
What you mean?
Because if we have just overall 25% for each armor value, that means I'm just going to get low on light and then have 5 strength and then just continually roll and poke. So the way that we'd have to buff that, or, well, nerf it, would be how we did the original perk that we was talking about, where, like, it would be light getting the least amount of benefit from it, but heavy getting the most.
Yeah, because heavy would have a higher stagger immunity compared to light armor. Light armor you get stagger just the same as you would here.
You could
Medium,
also
you would
use
have...
that. You could also use that instead of faster attack speed, make it staggered.
Yeah, it could be, yeah. Staggered significantly less. Or
that
have a
would
percentage.
work.
They would have to add stagger values because, I mean...
Yeah.
Yeah, they'd have to
Every
add some
initial
sort of
attack
stagger
you
value.
don't get staggered. Like, literally the first attack they hit you with, you can't stagger.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like mine. I don't know. The stagger one's good, but I still like mine. The speed. Because that's literally what agility is trying to be faster. Your ability to act after a dodge, and it has a direct impact on armor. I think that would be the best one.
Okay, I'm down for that.
Vitality. Did we talk about vitality? I think we talked about
Yeah,
vitality.
that was the first thing.
Okay. So we're
What
on
would
to
you make
accuracy?
changes in strength? I guess we can.
I think thuggery should be gone. I don't think thuggery should really be there. It don't belong in strength.
It is though. It's for like blunted weapons for like knocking
But
out
how
thralls.
often do you fight somebody with a blunted weapon?
Almost never.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Well, that's what. Yeah, originally we said it's gonna be a sub skill, so that should be changed.
Yeah.
But just like that, I mean, I'd still make some changes to just about all of these, honestly. Brutal Strikes is an interesting skill. Like, I mean,
still
these are
think
good
Slice
skills.
and Dice should be the first perk, and then Brutal Strike should be the third or second. I think the second one should be increased. You deal 25% increased damage to enemies affected by negative effects, and put that as the fourth tick.
Oh wait, it does say. Now let's think of this in terms of the what I said earlier about striking, blunted, and piercing weapons. There should be a sub skill between those as well. Like let's say, and then when they change the salting the wound perk is still here. So yeah, I think salting the wound perk is a good addition.
I think
Increased
assaulting
damage.
the wound should get a buff, and it should be put at the fourth tick.
Hold on now, Bucko. 15% is more than enough, I feel. Increased damage to enemies affected by cripple, blood, or bleeding, or sunder. Because, I mean, yeah, think about it. Cripple, it wouldn't be super effective on the old cripple rather than the new cripple that I thought of. That cripple would be pretty effective. Because, I mean, like, because I said the cripple it would still reduce their movement speed, but it would also reduce their ability to heal.
I don't think when you get hit with a ranged weapon you should be staggered either. I honestly don't think that should be a thing. Like, look at Dark Souls, dude.
It shouldn't be as aggressive. It should not be as aggressive. It should slow you down, just slightly.
Yes, it could slow you down, but I don't want
It
it
should
to just
slow
stop
you down.
immediately.
It should not outrate, like completely just stop your momentum. Not as a because the way that people use throwing axes, they use that shit like it's going out of style. But yeah, just that, man. Yeah, it should be slowed down.
And that's why I also think salting the wound should be at the fourth tick. Because people just, if they're going to use a throwing axe build and they want to just completely destroy you with a Yogg, set, you're going to go 2 in strength so you can get the cripple, plus the attack on the Yogg, plus the attack with the accuracy buff, plus the, you know what I mean? Like,
a lot more people would be more, a lot of people wouldn't go for tier 4 strength anymore too. I mean, they still would. They still would for the extra damage, but if you would have those perks at tier 3, they would actually bring more diversity. You can make more changes to that. Take thuggery away. Actually, yeah, take thuggery and make that a sub-skill. There should really be a sub-skill category in the game. Because that would really do away with a lot of this. Blood Mad Berserker should change. I think if they changed Blood Mad Berserker, it'd be more
They
appealing.
changed the name to that. Wasn't it Berserker Rage? I swear to God it was Berserker Rage.
Yeah, it was Berserk Rage.
Okay.
Whenever you hit points fall below 25%, you deal 50% more melee damage. That's pretty effective, but there's no clear indication about how long. Whereas, let's say we reworded this. How about for the Blood Mad Berserker perk, it was more efficient depending on how you use your weapon. Let's say if you got the tier 5 perk, let's say if you consecutively hit somebody 3 times. If you hit somebody 3 times, you get an increase to your damage for 5 seconds.
Yo, I didn't think about that. Like damage stacking, like actual.
Yeah,
like,
like in Dark Souls 3, you know the
yes.
ring. Like when you hit somebody consecutively, it increases
yes,
your damage
I
by
used that
percentage.
with my scythe. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I used that for those. I used for the twin axes.
I
That
used them
shit's
for
fucking
free to
AIDS.
scythe, bro. I loved it, dude, because the arc is almost unparryable, and people that try to parry it
That
just get
shit's
trapped in
dumb.
it.
I hate that
boom,
fucking
boom,
weapon.
boom, boom, boom,
I
boom.
fucking hate the
Yo,
ice
I
scythe.
love it, bro. I
This shit's
love
fucking
it.
retarded.
I used to be a god with it, dude.
This
I'm
shit's
telling
fucking
you,
retarded.
dude.
This shit's easy mode. Get out of here.
No, it's not.
I
You
hate
can
that-
parry a
I
scythe.
hate
If you
that
can't
fucking
parry a
thing.
scythe, you're bad.
I hate that fucking. Not scythe, just that one. That one's fucking cheese.
What do you mean?
I hated it. Anyway, but yeah,
whatever,
that's where I
dude. You're
kind of.
just
That's where I kind of
like-
feel. Fuck you, loser. But yeah,
Fuck
like,
you, loser. I'll whoop up a scythe, dude.
I don't hear shit. But yeah, like that's what I'm feeling about Blood Mad Berserker. Like I mean, even then, also, how about this?
Why not just
With
make
the Blood
Blood Mad
Mad
Berserker overall just no hit points fall below thing, and just say that you could stack your damage up to 50% more melee damage over a time of like fucking 10 seconds. You have 10 seconds to get a lot of hits on
I
somebody.
feel like
to stack that.
10 seconds can be too long.
5 seconds.
5 seconds, yeah, 5 seconds is fine. So we're like, if you hit somebody consecutively, 2 to 3, well, let's say 3. 2
I
is
don't
easy.
think
2 is very easy.
at all. I think just consecutively, it should stack from like fucking 5%, 10%, 20%, and then like like go on from that.
Hold
5,
on,
10, 15.
because it can be too strong. Because
it can
there's
but it is the last
because
perk.
you got to
of
think
strength.
about the bow too, man. You got to think about bow.
That isn't gonna work with bow. It says melee. It doesn't say. It doesn't say over It doesn't say ranged.
No. Remember the slice and dice perk and the blended strike perk. Those skills affect the range damage of the bow too. Remember, even the throwing axes.
I know, but I'm
even
saying
the throwing
like,
axes.
in ours it wouldn't.
In ours, yeah, because we'd code it correctly. I'm trying to say that without being an ass. Yeah, we'd code it correctly. So yeah, like with the tier, with like a fucking with Blood Mad Berserker, here's like that. Like I would say from, yes, consecutively, but how many is so? Two in your book would be consecutive. 2 hits in your book would be consecutive.
2 or yeah.
I'd say 2 or 3. I'd say 3 honestly. So that way, 2 would be pretty easy to get with certain weapons. Like with axes, you can get that pretty easily. Whereas like if it's 2, we have to reduce it by 3 seconds. We have to reduce it to 3 seconds. It can't be 5 seconds. Because it's too. Because like some weapons, like the axe or even the spear, it's too easy to get. It would be too easy of a perk to get to. Whereas like if it were like if it was 2 strikes, it had to be 3 seconds. If it were 3 strikes, it'd be 5 seconds. Whereas like if you do get the 3rd strike, you get it for 5 more seconds. It can increase. Yeah, that's what you're saying. Okay, so it increases over time. It would stack more for over time, right?
Yeah, if we did it for 3 seconds, right? Like let's say we did, then we would have to make it to where every time you hit it, the refresh 3-second timer.
Yeah, it would have to refresh.
That would be cool. That would work. As long as it refreshes.
Also,
if you hit, and it starts, and you're able to hit, like, it should refresh. Because at 3 seconds, you know what I mean? Like, it should stack and refresh.
Yeah. Also, I got another idea. It's kind of in between Vitality and Survival, but what makes for the Blood Mad Berserker perk. So, like, if you were to kill somebody, you would immediately heal for 20% of your total health.
That's a good one. That should be in Vitality, though.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking of weaving it in with the Blood Mad Berserker perk. So, or like,
I don't know about that. I'd put that at like the 5th fucking perk of Vitality.
Yeah, if you kill somebody, you get an increase to your
20% of your health back.
Yeah, you get 20% of your health back and a slight increase of 10%.
That would help. That would be a pretty good fourth to fifth perk. Because we did miss one perk out of Vitality. That would fit right in there.
Yeah. The last one, yeah, you'd get, if you kill somebody, you'd get 20% of your health back, or even 100 points of your health back. Let's say 100 points. And you'd get an increase to your maximum vitality by 10% for 5 or 10
that's
minutes.
a little too strong now. Hold on. We're making
It'd be worth it for a tier 5 hit.
That's true.
You'd have to kill somebody first, though. You'd have to kill somebody. And I'm not talking about, it would have to be coded a certain way if it's for PvP.
Have to kill a player.
Yeah.
Can't kill a thrall.
You have to kill a player. You have to kill a player. Yeah. If it were an NPC, 1%.
I wouldn't even say that. I don't even think NPC should count in that.
Okay.
Because then you just see people in the middle of PvP run over to the NPC camp, killing things real quick and coming back.
But no, just 1%. That'd be it. Just 1% in total. Whereas like a player, you get a 10% increase for like 10 minutes or 5 minutes.
Okay, so I think we got strength figured out. It's not really that bad. We just needed to put one extra thing in there, and we already found out what that's gonna be. I think.
Yeah. What was I gonna say? I was gonna say something about something else. So the changes to grit? Should we look at grit?
Yes.
I feel like strong grip should be a sub skill. It shouldn't be a main skill. Like there should be a lot more sub skills in this game rather than
I think
just
that
blatant
barbaric
attribute
should
perks.
be subs. And I think iron muscle should be gone. Fluid swings that can stay. Except
That should be first. That should be first, honestly.
I agree. That should be the first.
That should be first.
And that should be probably buffed because I don't really see a difference. I don't know what they mean by basic attacks. I think it should say your overall attacks cost less stamina. I think it should be by what, 10%? That would make more. That would make
Honestly,
a lot more
I
sense.
think it should stay the same. It should be it's
Fluid
increased
swings
by
does
5%.
nothing though. That's what I'm saying though. Is it does nothing right now. The thing's bugged in the game, so we don't know.
It is?
Yes, it doesn't work.
Wow. I don't even know what to say. Okay. But yeah, fluid swings should be first.
He was like, I don't think it needs to change. Well, I mean, I think it does because it's broken more.
I just used this shit like a month ago and it was fine.
No, it needs a buff. Or it needs fixed. That should be the first fucking perk in grit. Second perk, I honestly feel like we should have something like Artful Dodger. Dodging cost less should be a third or fourth perk.
That's pretty good. Hold on, cause like you gotta think about it. We might have to scrap that just because like we already have more rolls now.
Yeah. But
I think that should be fourth
I've tested it only gives you one roll. It only gives you one extra roll now. It doesn't like
That's
how
all
it
you
used to
need.
be.
That's all you need.
No, it's not.
Dude, you don't need like 12 rolls. Hell.
No, I'm saying
need
no.
12
I know
rolls.
that. I'm saying that is all you need. That's what I'm saying is why it would be good as a third or fourth perk because that's a crit. Actually,
I'd say fourth
that
perk.
should be
I'd say
that
fourth
should be
perk.
an agility. No, Artful Dodger should be an agility because dodging costs less. That's an agility. That should be. I don't know what that is. That right there don't make sense because it has a direct impact on dodging, right? That has the
Yes,
word
it does.
dodging in it, and it says cost less stamina.
We
I
can't
guess
go
it
off
works
straight.
with
We
grit.
can't go
I
off
don't know.
straight the definite. We can't go straight off
But
the
you know what I'm
definition
saying?
now.
Like that could go in
Yeah, I
either
understand.
category.
I know what you're saying. It can. It can.
I think it should be a 3 or 4th perk in crit.
So yeah, I'm down for Artful Dodger being a fourth perk.
Yes.
I'm down
And
for that
then
being a fourth
Fluid
perk.
Swings being 1.
Now what's the second and third and fifth? So let's go on the second. What would come after that? What would come after that?
Resistance to blunted objects.
For grit?
Yes. I mean, your blunted object attacks your stamina pool, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
So then it's having a direct impact on your stamina.
Do we usually get hit? The only blunted objects I can think of. Well, if this is in
Blunted
our
arrows,
world,
javelins,
yeah. If this
like,
if this is in our world, that also is affected by. Oh yeah, maces should do stamina damage. In our world, maces should do stamina damage. Warhammers should do a percentage of stamina damage.
I don't think any
If
weapon should do any stamina damage, in my opinion. Because if you have a stamina damage, you're breaking the game if they spam it.
Yeah, you're right. Let me take that away. You got a point there. We've seen what that does. Well, there's only a handful of weapons that actually do that. Anyway,
But like
so
in
those would
this
be the only one.
universe, I think, which we're not going off of, but in this universe, I would want the grit to have something that, like a 25% less blunted damage. Even in your universe, That could still work, but it'd be put in agility because it's an armor. It's an armor thing. At that point, blunted attack damage.
So let's see. So you want blunt resistance for grit.
Honestly, it sounds like it'd be better for agility, but in the universe that it is now,
We'll go back to it. We'll go back to it. Let's try another one.
You know what I think should do damage to your stamina? Gas or fucking smoke.
No.
Because you're not, you're breathing.
Absolutely not.
Think about it, you're not breathing. You can have a mask. I think the mask should counter all that, to be honest, but...
Not acid. That's the only counter to masks, acid.
Acid shouldn't take away your stamina, though.
Yeah. I think we should leave that alone. It's real. It's not a good one. I'm not down for that.
What? You tell me
down
you
for
ain't down
that.
for gas. All you have to wear is a mask.
I ain't down for that, man. I'm not down for it.
Alright, whatever, Mars.
Let's see. For the second perk, what could we do? Detect grit. Anybody got any ideas? Ideas for a second perk and grit? Any ideas?
Overall increase to your stamina? I mean, that is what it is.
It could be something similar to vitality, yeah. It could be a slight increase, but how much?
I don't know, as much as the other ones. What was it, 10%?
Yeah, it could be 10 or 20%.
That could be a second perk, I believe.
It'll be similar to like the freedom elixir. Gives you a little bonus.
Yes.
Yeah, give you slight, just basic increase, basic maximum increase. That'd be the easiest. It wouldn't have to be anything overdone. It'd be the easiest. So, yeah, okay, I'd be down for that.
What is the third?
Third, Third. So with stamina, we already have something that affect the weapons. Consumption. Got an increase. Regeneration would be interesting, but we're making that a sub-skill. Oh wait, didn't we say sprinting costs less? Or is that going to be a sub-skill? Yeah, that could work.
That would work. Yep, that should be, I think that should be the second skill, and then the third one would be the 10% or whatever for the, or the stamina.
Third one should be, if it's going to be third, let's make it 20%. 20% increase to stamina.
That's fine.
So you got 1, 2, 3, what's 4?
The fourth is the Artful Dodger.
Yeah, fourth is Artful Dodger, and fifth.
We should just have a fucking one-trick pony on every fifth one, bro. I swear to God.
Yeah, one-trick pony.
Like,
but it could, it could have the option to be.
That one should be where your running speed comes in. That is where your running speed should come in. When you drop below 25%, your movement speed is increased by 20% or something. You know what I mean? Like,
man, people would just love to fucking run though. But like, you gotta think about this shit. If somebody's on their last leg, yeah, their speed would increase. Yeah.
For like 3 seconds, like just a burst of speed.
3 seconds. 3 seconds. That'd be it. Just to give people a chance to run away. Although we run away too damn much anyway. But then again, it's probably running from horses. Yeah. But yeah,
hey,
I'd be down for that. I'd be down for that.
I think that works.
Against horses, that'd be pretty interesting. That's just fun.
You just juke them real quick.
Run, boys! Run, boys, run!
It'd be funny as hell though. You just see that little glow, like you hear the sound effect, and then they just start running.
That'd be pretty funny.
Little trail behind them, bro. Yeah, everybody on the horse. Get 'em, boys! They're just running, and they're almost at the same speed. Horses obviously will be a little bit faster, but
at least you have a fucking chance to get away.
Yeah.
Like your movement speed would increase, which means your run speed, your roll speed, and your fucking climbing speed would increase.
Yeah. I don't know about the roll speed. I
It's
don't know.
movement. All of it would be movement based. It wouldn't just be
But
run
the
speed.
roll is agility. I think the roll should be the only one that isn't out of it.
Okay, so keep that. Okay, I
Yeah,
see.
keep that
So
one
keep
in
it
agility.
specific.
Yeah,
So
and
make
then
it
have
very
the grip be
specific.
your
So
run.
only running speed.
Yes.
Only run speed then. Grid also affects climbing though.
There would be track.
So,
There would be track team stars everywhere you go.
bruh, there would be.
But no, instantly getting hit by like
There
a,
would
by a
be.
throwable or something, you know, should stop it. You know what I mean? It should take away the buff.
Yeah, it'll reduce. It won't take away the buff.
And it's only
What
for
it will
3
do
seconds
is
too.
What it will do, yeah, only for 3 seconds. What it will do is, when somebody gets hit with a throwing axe and that ability is active, they'll still get hit with a throwing axe, but the cripple would take effect and reduce their overall movement speed by a percentage, because they would stack differently. The cripple would stack differently with their overall increase to their movement speed.
That depends on how fast we consider to be fast. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
if you're thinking of a track team, I think like when they run, it's only slightly faster than sprinting. You know what I mean?
I'd say an increase of 10 or 15% to the sprint speed. That's it.
That's not much.
How much are you talking?
Oh,
What are you
I'm
talking?
saying I'm agreeing with you. I'm saying that's
Oh,
not
okay.
too big of a deal. Like if they
Yeah.
get hit like that and they have a chance to run.
Yeah, if you get hit by a fucking horse and you got tier 5 grit, you'd have a chance to get somewhere safe. I mean, you'd have a chance to do something. Now, if it's a one-on-one situation, they just run. I mean, if they've already taken that damage and they try to run, you still have a chance to hit them with a throwing axe or a javelin or something. You'd still have an ability. You'd still have, like, if it was a legit fight.
Plus, it's only 3. What if after 3 seconds, or how about we increase the time, but make it that, you know how the Berserker drought works? You use it.
Let's not give it any. No. Let's not give any actual perks and negative effects. That'll make them less appealing.
No, I'm saying that if they get hit by like a throwable or something like that, that it gives them crippling, like, you know what I mean? Like it's a harsher cripple.
I don't know, man. I don't
Because
know.
you gotta think about it. If you're in fight or flight and somebody hits you with a fucking big ass pole in your leg, you're gonna you're gonna be in some pain.
Yeah, that would mean the cripple effect would have to be more aggressive against that, or that could be something in the accuracy tree. Or no, let me
I don't know. Maybe
dial it back.
maybe the speed is just too good for grit. Maybe we should have.
No, it's not a bad idea.
No,
10 or 15% is enough.
No. But what about why go after like speed when we can go after endurance? What if when you drop below this percent, you still have a chance to run? Because when I say this, you'll understand. Instead of that.
Wait, your stamina doesn't deplete? Is that where you're going to?
Kinda,
or
yes.
depletes
Kinda,
slower?
Yes, it depletes slower.
Depletes slower.
That's what I'm thinking.
Okay, got you.
That one might have.
Oh, like
it
what is it? Like
50% slower. You know what I mean? Like that means you're.
And
able
it has
to
like a little
fucking
heartbeat.
sprint. Yeah.
It has like a heartbeat. So yeah, like that. I see what you're
I
saying.
think that works better because then the speed isn't because you can still catch them.
Still catch them, but their stamina wouldn't be consumed
That also
as
makes it
easily.
an aggressive trait too. You know what I mean?
Because that would last a percentage of time. So let's say that would last about 10, 15 seconds. Let's say 10 seconds. So like you could heal up. Like with my playstyle, I'll still be close to you if I had tier 5 grit, but like I'd be able to like move around you more. Like I'd be able to push the fight.
I like that
Yeah,
one
okay,
better
I'm down
than
for that.
the
I'm down for that.
Because the speedster would be funny as hell to watch, but just it'd be annoying as fuck to fight somebody and then they just run.
Yeah, it would. So
Maybe
let's
not
go over
10
encumbrance.
seconds, maybe 5. I don't know. It depends. All right, so encumbrance.
Balance and
counterbalance.
counterbalance.
You deal 10% extra melee damage while over encumbered, but swing 10% less stamina when not over encumbered.
That's when like you.
That's dumb.
No, that's when you have like
that's melee damage. That should be in strength. That shouldn't be in. That should be a
No,
because
because the whole thing is when they don't have any, like when they're maxed out at like tier 5 encumbrance.
Yeah, you'd be able to dodge
like,
more with different armor. Yeah, with
No, you'd be able to deal more damage.
No, we're talking about grit. We're back on grit for a second.
Oh.
The dude says, so would you be able to dodge more with any armor? I don't know about that. I think the
Yeah,
armor
that's Rage. What's up, Rage?
I think it'd be the same, but it's about having like the I don't know.
Oh
That's
yeah,
the
he
question.
has a point.
Yeah.
He has a point there.
I don't know, because isn't the stamina is based on values, isn't it? Depending on the armor.
That's the
it's based
thing,
on
though.
values.
That's the thing. That would change it. That would override it. Like stamina wouldn't be consumed as quickly. We'd have to expand on that idea.
No, because the stamina. No, when you dodge, your stamina has a percentage that it takes. It isn't based on that. So if you dodge,
okay, so I think the answer would be.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the answer would be no. The number of rolls would not change.
It wouldn't, because it's based on a stat. Like when you roll now, no matter how much grit you have, you're still gonna get the same amount of rolls for the plain fact that it's based on it's based on a stat.
Like just like your basic attacks, everything, all that stuff running, none of that would change for like 5 to 10 seconds, but dodging would still cost the same amount. Dodging wouldn't change. That's the idea that we're going with. Okay, encumbrance, but yeah, like balance and counterbalance, I don't think that's a bad skill.
It's not. I think the 10% less stamina when not over encumbered is good, but the 10% extra melee damage does not belong in encumbrance, bro.
Let me see balance. I think that should honestly be there.
I don't.
It's just.
It's encumbrance is the measure of how much you can carry and how much, like, you know, that.
It's more of a perk that helps out. It helps out the encumbrance build a little bit. That's all it is.
You shouldn't be fighting as an encumbrance build in the first place.
That's when you have to, though. There's always a situation where you have to.
I don't know.
It's hard in these streets, man.
I don't know.
But
dude. If that's the case,
how would you change it?
It should be put as a different perk, and it should be a sub perk.
Okay, let's go through all of them. So crippling effects are less severe.
That's a good perk, but I think that should be more for either a sub perk or a grit perk.
I think that should be an overall
agility.
perk for like vitality. That should be a vitality sub perk.
Yeah.
Pack mule is good. Pack mule is actually what we've been talking about. The max carry weight isn't actually make that the first perk. Make pack mule the first perk. Honestly, like let's be real. Let's make pack mule the first perk.
Yes.
Fourth perk, deflection, should be removed. That shouldn't be there. Deflection, you have a chance to ignore armor and shield durability loss. Oh, so it's not even having anything to do with tools.
No,
so it's just armor?
It's just armor.
Yeah.
It makes no sense to be an encumbrance. Either need scrap, put in survival, or agility as a sub perk.
Over encumbered, you can move at full speed.
That's fine.
Wait, wasn't there a perk in survival that... Let me see this. Where is it?
Why is bronze physique? Why is bronze physique in survival?
No, wasn't there a perk in survival that reduced the durability loss of your tools? Wasn't that a perk before?
It should have been.
I think it was. If I remember correctly, it was a perk that existed. I don't remember. I think they redid it. Yeah, so that's another thing.
Rely on buffs in their builds. Set's tongue fixes everything. I disagree. I think that buffs should be in their build for the plain fact that you farm the buffs. We've already had this talk. I mean, it's good counterplay, but I still think that if they're gonna use Set's tongue like that, it should remove one buff at a time every time you hit them. It shouldn't remove all of your buffs.
The crippling effect is vitality, then there is no need to put encumbrance points into encumbrance. It will be useless. Not entirely, because you still got to pick stuff up. Rage. And Lorenzo, I don't agree with that, man. I don't agree with that at all. You just like debuffing people. That's all it means. that's really all you just said. You just like debuffing people. But yeah, Rage. I don't think it would make encumbrance less effective.
You'd still need to pick things up.
Yeah, you still need to pick shit up because I mean you're not gonna leave a Mordlin or fucking Renaissance or fucking let's say if someone was dumb enough to come outside with a Thag's hammer.
Your encumbrance people isn't gonna be there to help you pick things up. Plus, you have to be able to carry your own armor weight, buffs, and food, and your weapons.
Yeah, what if you're on your own and nobody else can pull up for you?
If anything, I think Pack Mule should stay at 3rd or 2nd tier.
Nah, man, that's gotta be tier 1. Gotta be tier 1. Come on, man, that's gotta be tier 1. That'd be like the best.
Yeah, but that would stop people from having to go to 2nd perk and cover. I guess it's fine.
Yeah, you got a point. Alright, leave it at tier 3 then. Leave it at tier 3 then.
No, put it tier 2. Because that makes it to where you're able to have a PvP build with it.
That would make tier 2 completely meta. That would really make tier 2 meta.
It's already meta with crippling effects, so I mean it's not changing anything.
Yeah. Crippling effect should be a sub skill, so it increases over time. So it increases over time depending on your level of points put into a perk. So yeah, deflection removed. Momentum, I mean, that's obviously going to be the last perk. Momentum should be the last perk, obviously.
Have
That's
that
not going to
max
change.
grit, max encumbrance, just fucking take off with your speed thing. Could you imagine? Get hit once,
Yeah.
pew! Fucking gone, track stars. If that was the old thing we was talking about. But alright,
Yeah.
go ahead.
But yeah, so third and fifth perks stay the same, everything else
There
gets
better not be
scrapped.
talks about nerfing tier 5 encumbrance. That's stupid. That makes no sense. That would
Then
literally
who's gonna
make
farm?
yeah, who's gonna want to farm?
Then like that'd be like scrapping shit that nobody talks about. Like nobody bitches about encumbrance builds.
That's
No
kind of,
one.
I believe it now. I believe it because I ain't gonna say it. You know what? Let's just keep going.
Let's talk about the ideas. Let's not talk about
Yeah.
people who
Yeah. I wasn't even gonna
let's not
talk
do
about
that.
them. But that was
Be nice. Be nice.
Alright.
So what would we put in the first perk? What would change?
I don't know. I think I don't know.
Wait a minute. You do.
Honestly. I guess you can keep balance and counterbalance, but I mean it just doesn't make. Yeah, I guess
That's what I'm saying,
counterbalance
though.
works. I guess.
Yeah, because I mean, like, think about it. That's a pretty good perk because you deal extra 10 damage while over encumbered, but swinging
Yeah, that
uses
makes sense.
10% less
It
stamina.
makes
It's actually a
sense.
pretty
I
good
still
perk.
think-
That's what I'm saying.
I still think it should be more of, instead of extra melee damage,
A sub perk?
No. Instead of the melee damage increase, why don't they just make it to where you use less stamina over encumbered, and then less without being over encumbered? Does that
Well, I
make
mean,
sense?
at tier one, it being over encumbered means you're over 100%. So you're gonna be walking. So I'd rather be swinging before I'm dying.
I guess
So I'd like to have that.
But how many
yeah.
swings do you get? That's the question.
If you're using light attacks, you get like 4.
That's what I'm saying. So why not be able to double that with the extra stamina? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's
You
all about
dodge, and then you're able to
DPS,
hit 8
yeah.
times. Like that should be that. I think that would fit more in there than the melee.
It would be
damage.
about the weapon type as well.
Yeah.
Because if you're using a one-handed
If you're
sword,
using a spear, you're fucked. Because that's nerfed
yeah,
to the
pretty
ground.
much. That is, no, it's not even that. It's because the fucking all their attacks consume too much stamina.
Yeah, I know. You're just poking forward. It takes more stamina than leaping with a fucking axe and twirling. It makes
That
no
is,
sense.
which is retarded. It's kind of dumb how easy, how
I
cheap
can
it is.
backflip 6 to 8, no, 10 something times, 8 to 10 times with a.
It's
or,
14.
You know, 14
14.
times with a fucking dagger.
14.
But I can only roll like 4, 6, depending on what you're wearing.
Yeah.
But I digress.
So yeah, the first perk that should stay the same then. We agreed?
Yes.
Okay.
But
Second perk.
each little change though.
Little change, I guess. That's
Stamina
fine. That's acceptable. So what is the second perk going to be if we're going to move crippling to being a sub-skill in vitality? What would that be?
What perk are we moving to? What are we doing?
So the second perk in the encumbrance skill tree is going to be a sub-skill in the
For
vitality skill tree.
Right.
Sub-skill. That'll be progressively increasing over time as you put points into vitality. What would the second main skill be? Excuse me. It would have to be pretty good.
Talking about
Let's see.
you mean the third? Because pack mules are second.
Oh yeah, you got it. Yeah. Pack mule, yeah, that'll be our second. Third would be better than pack mule, but not better than the last one.
When wearing, oh dude, this would be funny. Just tell me what you think. When wearing all encumbrance armor, your overall, or you know, like just add stats to all the other stats, kind of like the Verminhide does.
I have. Hold on, I got. You're getting ahead of me. I got something for that. Just let's add something else. Let's add something else because that's a little too powerful.
Really? You'd only get like 5 plus 5. Not even that. I don't know. It depends.
Man, attribute points. is.
But if you're going all the way through encumbrance, I guess that is too powerful for a third. That'd be
Like when you start adding more attribute points.
How would you like taking out deflection out and putting the tier 4 survival encumbrance?
Oh yeah, that's what we said we were gonna do anyway.
Yeah, wasn't
That's
it?
what we said we were gonna do anyway. Yeah. So like the tier 2 survival
You mean
would
tier
become.
Or tier
Is it
four,
tier
my bad.
3? Yeah, the tier 2 survival would become.
Every animal harvested provides extra resources. That should. Hard worker should be. Both of those should be an encumbrance.
It's
those
honestly.
are both harvesting, and that's encumbrance type thing. That's
Yeah. Because the thing is, like survival and encumbrance go hand in hand. Like some Like I feel like that whole skill tree should be combined, and like some
Yeah.
skills should be made sub skills,
Yeah, I think
and
survival should be
some
sub
of the
skills
larger ones.
to the fucking encumbrance. To be honest.
Yeah, they should be sub skills, and they should add more. They should add more. They should add something else, like some different resistance based stuff. Because I was gonna talk about some changes. I wanted to talk about changes to like other debuffs as well, like frigid bite and like the heated augment. So like the effects that can make you hot and cold. Huh?
It's heated argument, not augment.
Whatever. It's the actual augment, an augmentation. That's what it is. An augment. You sure it's argument?
Okay. I'm pretty sure it's argument.
Let me see. But anyway, like what makes you hot, what makes you cold?
Yeah.
So like they're only effective in their designated biomes as to where like they could actually do a specific. Yeah, just heated argument. So like they could do a specific damage type here. Like if they let's say a frigid bite, it would still affect your temperature, but it would do like a marginal amount of damage. So let's say if it were like how we said it, like a blunt. Let's say this is the Black Eyes broadsword. So it would be a piercing and striking weapon. It would have more pierce by design, but it would also have striking damage, and as an added effect, it would have cold damage. That not only reduces the effectiveness of your, it would cause you to become colder in biomes, but at the same time, it would do cold damage. It wouldn't do a massive amount of cold damage, but it would do cold damage. So let's say it would do like a tick damage of 5 to 10 points additionally. Whereas like if it's pierce damage, if it's mainly
Like
piercing
have
attacks,
elemental armor? Are you talking about like something like that?
yes. Yeah, since we already have heat and status effects here, the armor would also affect it a certain way as well. So let's say it does 10.
That should be based on armor though. Aren't we talking?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just something I'm adding in.
Right.
So like I'm saying, I have a point. So I'm saying like
You do.
combining.
First. I'm kidding, dude. Go ahead.
Shut the fuck up. Like I was saying, like they should combine survival and encumbrance, or survival and vitality, and then make another skill that increases your resistance to other effects, or increases your overall resistance. So they could keep survival and make survival increase the resistances to those kind of effects as well. Because like how you said that the skill, the invulnerability to what was it? Let me see.
Poisons and diseases.
No, the other one, the one that where is it? Impervious. Impervious should be moved down to like survival, but there should be other skills that like help you mitigate against elemental damage types.
Right.
And physical damage types. So survival should increase your ability to like reduce blunted damage, reduce strike damages, or give you like blood clotting.
It should be elemental. I think, yeah, that makes sense in survival.
And then it should still, honestly, I feel like it should have the immunity to all poison types. That should really be tier 4 or tier 5. Like that should stay on survival.
Right.
I don't think that should move at all. You need to work for that shit. You can't be immune to poison. You can't be immune to bleeding poison at tier 1 or tier 2 or tier 3. Too easy.
Right.
Too easy to get to.
So we have the first in encumbrance is balance and encumbrance, then we have pack mule, and then we have the third one was what?
The third one for encumbrance?
Yeah.
So pack mule was second. The third one would be the so 1 and 2. Pack mule will be second. What would be 3 again?
That's what I was trying
We
to
said
say.
it.
Did we even make a third?
Yeah, it would be the one from survival, the tier 2 survival perk.
Okay.
One
okay.
hard worker.
Okay.
Will be 4. Will be 4. 4 would have to be something better than tier 3, but not as good as tier 5.
Make it to where your overall carry weight's increased by 20%. I don't know, not your overall carry weight.
No. What if the values stacked better? So like the values would stack differently, but when you put them in a box or something, it would change. I feel like that'd be a coding issue, so I don't know about that. Like instead of 1,000, it would stack to 10,000, so it'd be on one square.
I'm thinking. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. Is that would be a coding issue, but that's what I was trying to say earlier. But I still think each encumbrance armor gives a +2 instead of 1. You know what I mean? Like it'd make, I don't know.
I mean,
That
most
could
of
work,
the
but
pieces do, except the gauntlets.
you know what I mean? Like it'd just add +1 to all the armor. So that way you'd get
Oh, you're talking about
additional.
that.
Yeah.
An increase to resistances?
No,
That would be...
an increase to how, like, their perk increases. Like, you know how if you were to forward.
Oh, you mean as a sub perk?
Yeah.
You mean as a sub skill? Okay. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
And then for the 4th perk, because I think encumbrance armor is slept on a lot. It really is.
I had a build back in the day with encumbrance armor.
But like being able to move around, because you should still, after going full encumbrance and everything, you should still have some stats left over to be in other places.
You think it should have something to do with an increase to evasion of any kind?
No, that'd be two. That's different. That's a different stat.
Yeah.
Stamina you consume while over encumbered is less. We already have that one we talked about. I don't think we ever implemented it though. Think that'd work?
What?
If we implemented that for the 4th one?
What? Say it again?
Whenever you know the counterbalance I said that it should be changed to have the extra stamina, why don't we just make that as a 4th perk?
We can and make a new first perk, but it would have to be more than 10%. It would have to be 20 for both.
Hold on.
It would have to be 20 for both, because I mean it would have to be something that's pretty good for that. But what would be the first perk if we were to do that?
No, I think it should stay the same. I was thinking of just having two of the same, but having one more stack with that one as a buff.
Nah.
I don't know, 4th perk, you bind so much Stephen King comes to your house and beats your ass. No, I'm kidding. I don't know, just fucking, I don't... Encumbrance is a little difficult here, let me think. Survival's gonna be harder.
Survival's not that... Survival's actually pretty easy. Survival will be all about resistances and mitigations. It's probably what it should be.
I think survival should have something, yeah.
That's really all it is. I mean, there's not that many changes we would have to make to survival.
Okay, encumbrance, come on, think.
Like I said, we can move balance and counterbalance to the 4th perk. Think of a new first perk. Give balance and counterbalance a buff by 10%. So you deal 20% extra melee damage while over encumbered, but swinging uses 20% less stamina when not over encumbered.
Okay.
So that way... Oh, durability loss. Your durability loss on the first perk will be reduced by 10% as a first perk. Or we could leave balance and counter...
Deflection should be changed for encumbrance to put durability loss on your tools. You have a chance to lose durability
weapons, tools, and armor durability loss should be reduced by 10 to 20% if that's going to be a fourth perk. If it's a first perk, 10%.
No, I don't think it should have anything to do with armor, weapons. I'm thinking tools, because encumbrance, you're thinking of an encumbrance.
Oh, yeah, you got a point. Tools, how about tools and weapons? No tools and weapons?
That's fine. Tools and weapons.
Okay, cool.
Armor
okay, I'm down with
and
that.
shields or not, those make no sense.
Okay, fine. I'm cool with that.
And they have a chance to ignore weapon and tool durability loss. So then that'll be our first perk. So first perk is the redone deflection. Second perk, pack mule. Third perk is blanking my mind for a minute. I totally forgot what the third perk was. Fourth
so
perk
balance and counterbalance.
Counterbalance. The last one is moving one.
Momentum.
Yeah. What was our third?
It was something.
I think it was just an overall increase, wasn't it? No?
No, it was something else. We'll get back. We'll go to it later. So, like, survival, what would we do there? So, like, the first two perks would be gone. We'd have to switch that out or combine it. let's see.
Raw and bloody. You do not have the eat cook raw meat to avoid. That's fine. I
Oh wait, no,
guess.
that should say. Yeah, that should
That's
stay.
fine. Harvest
It should
is
be more
gone.
resistance based.
Efficient butchery should be gone. Antidote to one should be a second or third perk. Honestly, bronze
Hell
physique
no.
should be gone.
Hell
Why?
no.
What do you mean no?
Invulnerability to poison and disease? Dude,
Well,
do you know how
not
strong
like
that
It
is?
should be nerfed. It should be more of like nerfed, like how we was thinking of blood clot. We should actually
Well,
separate that. We should
yeah.
separate that instead of it all being one extra perk, like one perk token. It should be multiple.
Yeah.
Perk
It should
tokens,
be.
you know what I mean?
It should be a sub
You
skill
get blood
where you.
clot as the second perk, or you get
I think
this
blood
as the
clot would
third
be more
perk,
set.
You know what I mean?
Okay, here's my thing. I think blood clotting, anything to do with blood, bleeding, and anything to do with bleeding should be a vitality. So poison, crippling resistances, bleeding resistances, and so there's bleeding, poison, cripple, and sunder. So bleeding and cripple should be affected by how many points you put into vitality. No. Bleeding and cripple should be affected by vitality, whereas sunder and bleeding. Oh yeah, sunder and poison should be affected by survival, and bleeding and cripple should be affected by vitality.
Sunder and cripple survival. You said.
Yeah. No. Sunder and I guess sunder or poison. Sunder and poison should be affected by survival.
Sunder and poison.
And also like the other effects like the resistances to elemental damage like fire and ice.
That's what I was thinking. Is just add that because it says ability to live in harsh conditions. That has a lot of
Yeah, because we're gonna add in the impervious effect. That was gonna be part. That's gonna be in tier 1 of survival.
Okay. And then the raw and bloody. No, I think that should be tier 2 because raw and bloody should be tier 1. If we're keeping.
Yeah. You're right. So now we only have to change efficient butchery.
Yeah.
Actually, let me see bronze physique.
That should be an agility.
Yeah, it should. It should be a sub-skill between of agility, honestly.
You have this many points in survival and agility, you get this perk.
So we're changing 5 and 4 staying the same. If you're gonna go for 4, it's gonna stay the same. No. 4 would have to change too because we say that's changed. 4. Okay, so 1 and 2 have been changed. Or 1's gonna stay the same. 2 is gonna become impervious. 3 needs to change. 4 needs to be a sub skill, and it's going to be reducing its effectiveness on 2 different divisions. So reducing the effectiveness of its overall duration and its damage effectiveness.
What if survival did the effectiveness and vitality to the duration?
Huh?
What if survival did the effectiveness, like how much it takes, and vitality did the duration of how long it lasts?
That'd work.
That's just easier to code.
Yeah, that's easier to code. So what would 3...
The fourth one would have to be exactly how it is, except it's going to reduce the effectiveness, and then vitality reduces the amount of time. So we just need to change the third one and fifth one.
Let's see. What would we do? What would I do? So we're changing the third perk of survival.
We've been on this for 2 hours.
Yeah, man. It's theory crafting. We ain't even done yet. I've got an idea for an armor set. For changes well, not even changes. It's just gonna be one thing. I mean, I have three different ones that I did stuff on. We can talk about that afterwards, but let's get the survival shit done. So like for the third perk, so it's survival based. So survive in the exile lands. Excuse me. Third perk.
don't even get how that's part of it. Affects how you easily metabolize food. That makes no sense.
Honestly, like you can like I know there's a modifier for it, but like water and like your food should not run out so fast. On official, your food and water run out so quickly.
I don't think
How
so.
about
A
how about
I don't know, man. That just sounds like you're about to go down this rabbit hole that is going to make very much fucking
no no no
sense.
no 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 I'm just saying, like, have you noticed how fast water and food deplete on official, like on your bar?
Yeah.
That's all I was saying. That's all I was saying.
Oh,
I
I
mean,
got you. Yeah, that should.
yeah, I
That
ain't
could be
building for
something.
anything else.
Okay, I thought you said about like the actual items.
No,
I was like,
no,
yeah,
no,
no,
that'd be
yeah, I
fucking
agree.
useless.
That should be
Be
something in
shit fucking
survival.
worthless.
That should be something in survival. It would help metabolize food, like stuff like that. It'd make more sense. So then, like
So
your
food would
overall
last
health,
longer?
your overall hunger and thirst meters are slowed down by 25%, or
No, 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 no,
I
no.
feel
I
like I
mean,
feel like that should be a rank 1, if that was even a thing.
oh, reduction of fall damage. No, 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 not feeling it. We could always come back to it. We have this shit now. Survival isn't the most prominent of perks. People only use it to get to tier 4.
Yeah.
Only tier 4 really for combat. Tier 2 for
Tier 2
like
for
fucking farming.
performance, yeah.
It's not the most prominent. It's all it's really used for. So, okay. So, you want to just skip it for now? We can get back to it later.
No, we gotta finish it here. I'm not equipped.
Alright, fine. Fucking. Oh, really? Okay. Thought you were a simp, but okay.
What'd you say, bitch?
Not a nice shit, not. Let's see,
We only need one for it, don't we? Because we have, yeah, we only need one perk right now for survival that would make it. Has to be a decent one because it's going in what slot? It's going in the 3rd?
yeah.
Okay, so it has to be decent but not overpowered.
How about something like Treasure Hunter?
No. Oh, like, you get, yeah, I guess you could, like, a
You'd have a
weapon
chance
thing.
to find her rare items. Rarer items.
Yeah, fucking
Be
get
more of
that
a
and go farm people and get fucking legendary weapons. That'd be cool.
And only for it would only be like for like PvE types of deals. Like you'd have the option to use it, and you'd get an increase to like chest drops when you farm resources. You
I
get
don't know, that
rare
doesn't
resources.
scale survival though, you know what I mean? I mean it does, but it doesn't. Like that's more of a loot or something like that. What if give me a second, I'm thinking.
Looting is a part of survival, man.
I know, but
Maybe
it's not,
or
it's
scavenger
not
perk. A scavenger perk. Something like so, like you would increase. How should I say this? Let's look in terms of a scavenger, because a scavenger is a survivor. How would you make a scavenger perk? So, would it be something similar to efficient butchery, or what would we do? Some officials drain your hunger and thirst faster. Yeah, trust me, I noticed, homie.
What about the temperature effects? We didn't. Where's that one?
We said impervious was gonna be second.
Okay.
So it's just third and fifth right now. No,
Well, yeah, 3rd and 5th. We already made one for 5th, didn't we?
nah. So
What
let's
about,
say
what
if
they change bronze physique to all elemental combat is reduced
elemental
by 10%.
damage resistance, yeah, reduce elemental Well, the elemental damage, I don't think it should be too overwhelming unless there are weapons that just purely do elemental damage.
Well, I mean like frigid bite and stuff like that. Heated arguments. That, like they can make it to where, like you know how the fangs of the mother used to have heat damage. You know what I mean? Like they used to be able to.
Yeah, it used to
like,
heat stroke you.
Yeah, that would make. And that should actually be a third. That should actually be our 3rd perk, to be honest.
It's kind of similar to impervious to temperature effects, isn't it?
No, because temperature effects is not the same as getting hit in the face with something that's on fire. I'm sorry, they're completely different things, dude.
Okay, fuck it, go for
I
it.
mean, think about it.
Go for it.
So
what
we
tier
just need
5 be?
a fifth.
Animals will avoid you when you walk past them. Oh my god.
Stop. No, dude, don't do that. That's not good. You never get food. You run up to a dragon, he just runs from you.
Nah, he just avoids you. He just doesn't fucking fuck with you. He just leaves you alone. Just thinks you're a big stink.
That big stink.
Tier 5 survival. It would be something very simple like bronze physique.
I don't know. I think
Immunity to weather effects.
but that's the same. That's the same thing as impervious.
No. Immunity to weather effects. Immunity, not impervious. Immunity. Because what impervious in this game means, you still take effective damage from it. Impervious is like you still take some kind of negative effect. Huh?
You're writing all this down, right?
No, I'm not.
Okay, well you're gonna have to rewatch and write all this down so that way we were able to come back.
Make
to
a
it.
video later. Yeah, no. So like if if it's immunity, so sandstorms no longer affect you. Cold weather no longer affect you. Hot weather no longer affect you.
Okay,
That
that's
type
fair.
of thing.
That works. You can go to the volcano.
None of that shit no longer affects you. You're pretty much a thrall now. that sort of thing.
Cool. That would be cool.
Gas wouldn't affect you, although tier 4 makes it so gas wouldn't affect you anyway. You'd be immune to like all that shit.
I think
Basically.
that works. Yeah, that works. So then now what are we looking at? We haven't talked about accuracy at all.
I don't. Just reduce it, man. Just reduce it. Just get rid of it. Just scrap it.
Well, let's look at it for a minute.
I'm
Let's
kidding.
look at it
I'm
for a
kidding.
minute.
I'm
So,
partially to blame. Why fucking
Eye for
bows-
injury, crippling shots of the bow are more severe. That can stay.
That can stay. I mean, a lot of it is
Throwing
pretty
axes and
consistent.
shots fired from your bow will ricochet if you miss your target. Honestly, that can stay because it makes sense, but it doesn't
Yeah.
at the same time.
It's
Steady hands,
cool.
all
It
range and
works.
throw
It works
weapons.
though.
All do 10% more damage.
That needs to be left alone.
That's fine.
Like, dude,
Lightning
like it's
shot
not about the
needs
perks.
changed,
It's
and
not about the
shaft
perks for
needs
accuracy.
changed.
If anything, they've done more stuff to accuracy. I don't feel like that needs to change. Accuracy as a whole, the damage just needs to be reduced. That's it. That's really it. Just reduce the fucking damage that accuracy provides. It's too much. Accurate, yeah, that's why I didn't really want to touch it. It's fine. Like, the perks are fine. Just reduce the amount of damage it does. Look at bows. Look at that. Perks aren't
so
perks aren't the problem.
We talked about all this shit now. Alright, now what's next?
Yeah. Next is
Oh shit, I'm dying. Oh, my guy's starving. He's dead. He's dead. I'm kidding.
You're alright, bitch.
What?
Sit down. Stop. Relax. Enough. Sit down. Just relax. Just settle down. Just settle down. Sit down. We still got shit to cover. No, you wanna just get up and do stuff. Just settle down. There you go, buddy. There you go. So next thing I wanted to talk about specific armor perks. So let's talk about just the. Can you sit down? Can you sit down, please? Love of God. So like let's look at the flaws to fire, right? So it's a basic like a 9 points into the attributes. Now what if what if they encourage you to actually wear a full set of gear?
That's what I was saying a long time ago, is that they need to. They need to make it something that appeals to people that makes them want to wear
To wear a
full set.
complete full set of gear. So here's what I came up with. I'm going to start with Flawless Defari. So with 2 pieces, now remember I said set value, you don't get any bonuses from just wearing one piece.
What about those passives we talked about? What if we made it to where you unlock the passives based on the attribute bonuses that the armors give you?
You mean like just from
Like if you're
You
wearing
said
3 pieces of strength, this is a passive for wearing three pieces of strength. You know what I'm saying?
I feel like that's too
the-
clear. I feel like that can be.
Because then you could have
It
No,
would
it
have to be
makes
something
sense.
different than strength. It would have to be something different. It would have to
Right,
be a
alright,
percentage value.
like, what I'm saying is, like, the little sub
Boy, so you're
stats and
saying like,
shit.
so you're saying like it'd be another substat outside of that. So if you're wearing 3 strength, so you're wearing something that augments your gear. I think that'd be too easy.
Really? I think that'd be interesting, because then you'd have people running around with legendary armor that gives them certain things.
Yeah, you'd be right, but at the same time, what would categorize as just strength gear? Because technically,
And
Vermintide
that
counts as strength gear.
Verminhide? No, that counts as an all attribute gear. It doesn't count. It has to say bonus to strength.
Maybe something. What would the bonuses? Let's say we did do that. What bonuses would be given?
Well, the passives that we've talked about, like the strength, like there's the substats that we talked about, should have their own branch that they can get on with the armor.
So you're
See what
saying
I'm
you
saying?
should get.
Like, you know,
So
the
you're
sub
saying
the
you should-
substat the sub attributes that we talked
Sub
about, right?
skills, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Those should be unlocked through what armor you're wearing and what values those give you.
I think they can be a part of that just because of the attributes. I don't think you should wear like
Like a
three
legendary
type-
strength gives you plus, like it gives you regular attribute, but it also gives you this with your sub skill.
Like if you wear like 3 pieces of strength gear or 2 pieces or something like that.
Yeah, kind of like, right. So
I don't know. Because
we have if you're wearing 2 strength gear, you get this base stat. If you're wearing 3 strength gear, you get that stat and this stat. You know what I'm saying? Like, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it's kind
But I
of
see what you're saying, but I don't know if that's the right. I don't know if that's the right way to go. Whereas like you'd still get attribute points just for like. I think if we were to give sub skills just for putting points in, I don't think we should get sub skills for just having gear on like that, unless there were gear sets.
No, like the
'Cause,
pluses
I mean-
go into the sub skill tree is what I'm trying to say.
Oh well, yeah. I mean that's like, so
look,
you're saying.
look. So like you can't just alright. So I think I see what you're trying to say. You're trying to say that if I just throw on 3 pieces of strength, if it's regular
I get a
strength
sub-skill.
and not epic's flawless, I'll get it. No. The actual number that you're getting, like when you open up your attributes, the strength, like mine says +6. That's +6 points in my subcategory plus the attributes I already got. So the +6. Let's say there's a 3 point, 6 point, and 12. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's how it works. That goes into
Okay.
that part of the sub skill.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying now?
A little bit. Just a little bit.
Because you get +6, I get whatever sub skill is 6 points and 3 points and below. You know what I mean? Like,
I get you.
and that makes it to where you can have other, like, I'd have a +4 in agility, plus the weapon. You know what I mean? Like, I'd get a sub skill for that. The vitality, I'd get a sub skill. Like, you know, that would make it to where builds were more builds.
Dynamic.
Yeah, that'd make it to where you can't just throw the average PvP 4 strength, 4 vitality, 2 grit, 2 encumbrance, 2 agility, or 3 agility. You know what I mean? Like, throw that right
Yeah,
out the window.
that's kind of what I've had with here. So check this out. I think I brought this up to you before. So like a full set of Flawless Starfire, you'd still get the 9 points of strength, but with 2 pieces, you'd get an increase to your poison resistance by by between 10 or 20%. So reduce the effectiveness of poison. So reduce the overall damage it would do to you by that percentage amount. So 3 pieces would be 10% physical resistance to all damage types. So since Defari, I got the idea because Defari is already a light armor set. So since you get the extra resistances from just wearing 3 pieces, you'd be able to take more damage. The 4th piece of Defari would give you 10 to 20% stamina regen. An increase to stamina regen by 10 or 20%. And then the 5th piece, which is more lore focused, regular food items increase healing abilities by 10%, whereas human food products, since the Defari are cannibals, human food products heals for 25 to 30% more. So like if you were to use the mystery meat soup, or like eat human or feral flesh, or any other type of human product, like you'd get more healing out of it. Stuff like that.
What do you guys think
It's
of
kind
the
of
chat? What do you guys think of the chat? Like, we need to hear your opinions here, because this is. I think my sub skill I like better than that, because then you're able to
Rage said
more focus.
ACC needs to be gone.
Oh, I knew that. That was said a long time ago when we talked about accuracy. But I think the sub skill, the way that we want it to be, would work really well with how I just
I think
worded
it'd
it
be
with my
interesting,
armor.
yeah.
Cause see, you'd be able to wear this and get this. You know what I mean? Like, should we have each? What if it was like that, but then like with each different? Yo, what if with each armor type too, you get different bonuses as a substat?
Like different substat, like they'd give
Like
you
your
like a what
Defari
just.
would, like your Defari, if I had Epic Flawless like a +9 or whatever, I get to have all the things in that, and one of the things would be eat. Like Defari thing heals you better than human food. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
stuff like that. Like those.
that's what I'm saying.
That
Like
would be
each,
cool.
like it's a,
If you
like
wear
my
the
whole thing is a gear
Aquilonian,
set.
you know, like you get kind
If
of
it were,
a cool
I didn't get as far as the Aquilonian. I have something from the Dogs of the Den, and I have something from the basic encumbrance gear. I didn't do the other ones. I can't tell you what I did the Dog of the Den though.
what?
So Dogs of the Den would do something a little bit similar but very different. So this 2-piece on that, you'd get 10 to 20% poison reduction. So reduce the duration of poison by 10 or 20%. So it wouldn't last as long on you. The 3 pieces would increase your carry capacity by 10% because they're stronger people than the Defari. Like how it's coded in the game, they're stronger than Defari.
The one you want
The 4,
strength as well.
I'm thinking more of like carry capacity. I'm not trying to give them strength. I'm not trying to give too much. Just something that'll be a benefit
I think
rather
okay,
than
okay. I like the idea.
because you don't want to give too many
I
sets.
like
you
that
don't,
idea, but then like when you think about it, it's just it though new.
and then I'm
players
not finished.
off.
I'm not finished. Let me finish. Fourth piece. The 4th piece gives 100 points of health. The 4th piece gives 100 points of health. Just blatant health, and no increases to attributes, just health. 4th piece, you get 100 health. That's it. And the 5th piece, your damage is increased. Your overall damage is increased by 5%. That's the damage you wanted. And animal companions deal 20 to 25% more damage.
I don't know.
Because that's more in line with like the Jubble Sock thing. The 5th
Like
perk has a lot to
I'm
do.
down for having different stat bonuses or under like I don't know how to substats for the armor types and having them vary from each armor stat. I think that's a good idea. But then like when you think about it, I mean that's a great idea. But when you think about it, it'd have to be really well balanced, and it'd have to be like a maximum.
Yeah,
of
these are
3
just
things you can get
arbitrary
from.
numbers, dude. These are just arbitrary numbers. They can be changed. Like the 10% could really be like 5%.
And what if
Even
would buffs play a fact? Would we allow buffs to increase the?
Buffs should stay the same. They shouldn't
No,
be.
I'm saying should they increase the number? Like, all right, so I got a +9 in strength, right, or
Yeah.
+6 in strength. If
Okay.
I get I get the buff, it makes it 9, right?
Yeah.
Should that 9 in my strength be on my sub skill, or should it just be the 6? I'm thinking it should just be the 6. But then again, if we want it to like really matter, we can make it to where you'd have to have buffs to have some sub skills.
I would. Are you saying your sub skills should be effective by giving you more attribute points? Because I've been kind of
+6 and stuff, like the plus for let's use strength because I keep using it. The +6 in strength would go into my attribute or my sub skill attribute. Let's say that there's attributes and there's skill or sub skills, right? They're two different things.
yeah.
So your attributes, you got +6 in your strength, which means if I go to my sub skill or my skills, it'll have +6.
You said +6. You
my
mean
strength
6
points.
additional? You mean 6 attribute
6
points or 6?
and 6 the no because it's the +6, right? Like it's the +6. It's from your armor and stuff. So
Okay.
that goes into your strength category. The +6 in strength goes into the sub skill on strength. That gives you 6 points and under.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
It's as if you're using your armor as point values on another like a skill tree.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So there'll be sub skills built into the. I see what you're saying. So there's another skill tree, basically.
Yeah. Except you're
Gotcha.
using your armor and stuff to get the perks from that.
So it's a completely separate skill tree within that skill set.
Yes.
So like strength
yes.
has a skill tree inside of it, but you're working for a different skill set.
Yes.
Gotcha. I've kind of tried to avoid that just a little bit with working into the build. I think that would work side by side, So
I
that
think
would mean
it'd make it, like, because you get plus
it'd
6
be
in
interesting.
strength, plus 4 in agility, plus 2 in vitality, plus 2 in accuracy, plus 4 in grip, plus 2 in encumbrance. Like, you'd have other little sub skills that would make you different from everybody else running that exact build because they're using different
Yeah.
armor. You know what I mean? Like, you'd be able to make it different. You'd be able to run things differently and have different effects in combat compared to somebody who just runs the same thing.
Yeah. I think I think both of our ideas
And
could
now
go
my
side by
question,
side.
right now my question, yeah, it does. That's what I'm saying is like that's why I like your idea because it makes the armor also different from like what you're getting in that other
I feel like
branch.
the percentages and the numbers would have to be reduced by a certain percentage because it might be too strong. I think yeah, for like the Dogs of the Den outfit I was saying, animal companions might have to be dropped off a bit.
That's what I'm saying.
Probably
I
not.
don't think I don't like the idea that you're having thralls do your work, but I can
It's
see
just for
why.
the. It's just for
I
that.
know,
I mean, this is for the Dogs of the Den. That's it.
I know. I'm just saying like,
It's the only thing that made sense to me.
right? I mean, throw it in there, but I'm just saying like, I think that the sub skills or whatever we have, we need another name for it. There's attributes and there's skills. We'll just call it skills. That's it. Skills. I'm done with it. Skills. So your attributes and skills are different, but depending on what armor depends on what skills you're getting. So if you have Defari, it's mainly it's going to give you the strength stat, but the Defari armor itself gives you these skills in this category. You know what I mean? Like they give you the skills.
Yeah.
Wearing 2 Defari, that means your plus 2 that you get from the Defari is going to this skill. If that makes sense.
It's like 2 pieces. So wait, what's the? So let's say one of the sub skills. Like, how many points do you need to get to one sub skill?
That's a good question. I was thinking 3.
Maybe a little more.
No, because 3, yeah, like it's armor type. It's dependent on armor type. Like
I guess I could.
You can't mix with Defari, War Dancer.
Oh, so you mean specifically?
Yeah, it's for armor.
So wait, so let's streamline it. Let's streamline it. If you're wearing 2 sets of the same kind, if this kind is strength, it gives you a specific bonus. If this kind is encumbrance, it gives you a specific bonus. Like that?
Yeah, kinda, yeah.
Okay,
I mean,
I see what you're saying.
it's I don't know how I don't really understand what you said really, but I'm trying to say that,
no. Go ahead.
let's say there's Defari and there's Catan, or like there's something like Defari and then what's the other strength?
Turnian, Cambodian,
light strength because you need light strength here.
Argosian.
I guess Argo.
That's
the Argo, right?
Argosian.
It's going to give you a different. If you have all Argo, it's going to give you a different stat or different skill than what you would if you had all Defari. But if you mix the two, you're only going to get the the 3-piece for whatever one. The 3 points you're going to get.
2 or 3 piece, yeah.
Like depending on because if you have 3 pieces and then 2 pieces, the 2 pieces. Like I don't know. I'm thinking 2-piece.
So that means each weight class should have. So what you're saying? So let me break it down. So basically, you're saying like light armor should have a specific skill tree. That's what you're saying.
The armor itself should have a specific skill tree itself.
Okay, that can work. That's how they did it on ESO.
That's what I'm going off of is ESO and
okay,
Neo.
yeah.
Like Neo has it to where if you wear a certain legendary armor and you have it all legendary, you get a bunch of other stat bonuses along with your stats. That's what I'm saying here. That each armor will have different stats in its skill category, but depending on how many pieces you're wearing and the points that's put in with those pieces is what's going to determine what stats you're getting from that armor.
Yeah. Yep. Wait, what? You said that specific armor will have specific stat points? I think all light, medium, and heavy should have their own specific skill sets. Like light armor they should all across the board.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay. Like across the board, all light armor should have the same sub skills. They should all have all the same sub skills. That's what you're saying, right?
Yes.
So like any light armor will have the same sub skills no matter attribute. Because I don't think they should be split up depending on attribute or. Okay, cool. So that way it'd be a lot easier to function. Won't be too much to code. And my last one, let's see. My last one was for all types of encumbrance gear. So the 2 pieces were 100 points in stamina. 3 pieces were an additional 100 points to health. 4 pieces, 10 to 15% damage reduction to all damage types. And the 5th piece was increased gathering rate by 10%. So that way it'd be more, you'd be farming faster, and you'd have more survivability on an encumbrance build.
Like I said, I'm trying to keep all the stat. Like, as long as you add in health with encumbrance, I wouldn't do that.
It would give you the option to weave it into other builds. It wouldn't necessarily have to be health. The health could be removed. It could be something else. What would you add there? Because that is the 3rd perk for wearing 3 pieces of encumbrance gear. Because encumbrance doesn't get any bonuses to vitality at all.
And it shouldn't. It's encumbrance.
Not if you're the pack mule. It's gotta be a trade-off. You're big, you're slow, you can only gather shit.
You can still run shit with it. You can still have vitality in your build with that.
Yeah. You'd have some vitality, just not a lot, depending on what you're doing.
Well, that's the
if it's raiding, yeah, that's true.
Horses. No, I'm kidding.
Oh my god. Stop. Caravan horses. Just carry vaults everywhere.
Yes. I'm up for it. No, I'm kidding. Moving horses and shit. I think we made some progress today.
Well, I guess a little bit. I think we need to bring this stream to a close, guys. It's getting really late. How about you, Reaper?
I'm tired.
I think we talked.
Probably gonna play some Call of Duty.
Yeah. So we're gonna call a stream. Draw the stream to a close. I appreciate everyone coming. We might have another stream next week. I'm not gonna make any promises. I ain't make any promises. Want to get this one out to you guys?
I know we'll have a stream once the update comes out, though, because we'll be testing.
Yes, we will. We will be testing a lot of things. So I want to say thanks again. I'm Mars, and this is Reaper. And Reaper, would you mind doing us the honors?
Bye.
Oh my god.